I can't believe it, Craftsdwarf. How excited are you?
For
First one
Monster
of
Hunter, it's
these in so fucking
oh,
long.
for
I
sure,
can't believe
right?
it.
I
I
expect we're just gonna
actually,
do
by the way,
content that you haven't
I was
done
gonna
yet,
say there's
because I
some that I
yeah.
still have not yeeted and skeeted yet. So I've definitely got some I can run. Um, let's see. Got 155 hours in this game. What a great little picture to look at. Hold on, I just want to take this in because this might genuinely be one of the last times I play this game, and I love this game because I've been thinking about making a video game 3x3, and I've been genuinely deliberating. If I want this
Between
game
Rise of
to,
World.
no. If I want Monster Hunter on there, because like 9 games
Oh,
is such
okay.
a small, like, you know. Wait, say something.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, they can hear you on the stream.
Something.
Yeah, no, you're
Words.
good.
Yeah.
It's such a small, like, overall percentage, you know, that
Uh huh.
like, it's such a small percentage of, or such a small number of games. It's like so hard to pick just 9. But I almost wonder if, like, as I get older, I'm starting to see that's kind of the beauty of it, you know, is like, because if I pick at this point, you know, and as I play more and more games, I pick like 16 games. A lot of those are just going to end up being a lot of the same 16 other games people would put on their list, right? Because, like, at the end of the day, you know, I would probably have a good handful of some of the best games of all time on there. Other people who would also have played those games would put them on there. You know what I mean? But when you
For
whittle it
sure.
down to 9, it's really, like, personal, you know? Like, it's enough to get a
Yeah.
general idea, but it's so small that, like, it really should be unique and personal. And I'm starting to fuck with
Yeah.
that.
The person whenever I think of like I've made a lobby, by the way. Whenever
Cool.
I think of someone who has like just a list of favorites, for some reason I always remember Roger Smith 2004, because like he watches a shitload of anime and his top 10 are all are based almost all literally like I've never heard of that show. Like every
Right.
every fucking one, right? Because he's just watched so much. He has, and yeah, his personal taste is probably like he doesn't, and not that he doesn't like a lot of the really popular stuff, but it's just interesting, because I'm obviously it's not that I don't think he's genuine about it, but it's just like there's a level of, because I think even Nunn mentioned it, it's like there's something cool about having a favorite that's like nobody else that you really know has, right? Like, oh yeah, that's my favorite,
Yeah.
because because it is a form, like we talk about it enough, like we recognize that it's a form of expression, our favorites, right? Because it does, like, we care about these stories so much, there's a way that it encapsulates like who we are, right?
Yeah. No, for
So
sure.
maybe when, yeah.
I think, and I think that there's a, are you going to say the passcode?
Did I? It's the usual one.
Oh, wait, no. Isn't the
But
normal
it's
one
been a while since you
1112?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, I fucking got it. I'm the GOAT. Yeah, well, and I think that there's something really interesting in that. And, like, even if on mine I would still have, like, on a 9-game list, there'd be some, probably popular choices. Like, I've been thinking about it.
Final Fantasy 7, right?
I'm
Like,
not sure. No.
but,
I would.
oh, really?
I actually
Okay.
would probably at this point just put Final Fantasy 14 on there if I'm being dead ass.
Gotcha.
Um,
And you're probably like me, where you don't. I mean, maybe on like a 16 or 4x4,
Dude, where's
but
food?
you probably.
Well, I have
'Cause
4x4s
yeah,
now, but that's the thing, is I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I think if I do it again,
well,
I
I was
just
gonna
want to do
say,
9.
yeah. Well, no, I was gonna say it's like I don't really like having multiple franchises. Like if I okay, so here's the problem. See, because so next year I'm gonna do my anime rewatch. It's a very legitimate possibility that I might have 2 or 3 Aikatsu entries on my 3 by
Oh,
3
he's at the other one.
because it's fucking Aikatsu, right? So there's a level of like,
Mhm.
like that's why I brought up you having like only World or only Rise on your 3 by 3, just because it's like they're both really good and there's both things about them that I think are distinct. Um, so it's a matter of like, well, which one do you like more, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was actually more of like whether it's going to be on there at all.
Yeah, well, and
But
because especially I've been thinking about it, and if I go down to 9, I'm totally getting rid of like the clause I've had for a long time of only one per author or like series.
Okay.
Because I think that if in my top 9 I have multiple things by the same person at this point, you know what I mean? Because like if I can make 16 easy favorites without cutting across, but then in 9 I can actually think of overlap.
Okay.
I think that says something more than even just having the same, right?
That makes sense, yeah.
Because at this point I know it's not just like, oh, like I've only played that. Like if I do end up with multiple like Final Fantasy games on there, which I totally will if you consider Kingdom Hearts Final Fantasy, which the more Final Fantasy, the more I kind of want to, and like honestly do. I think, dude, I'm like fucking stupid. Wait. Oh wait, no, she's in the fucking hub. I'm fucking, dude. I forgot how to play this game.
I was about to say earlier, you could literally just like
I'm
open world map and
struggling.
it tells you
I'm
your menu.
struggling. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. So I just haven't done Amatsu, and I guess anything else that comes after that. But I'm grabbing Amatsu right
Well,
now.
I mean, I guess I will say on the like putting multiple things in franchise, because I do agree that like what Ombre says is like, if you have a lot there, that just proves how good it is or how much you like it.
Exactly.
Rather
No.
than,
That's what I've been thinking. Yeah.
But I guess the risk, because I've actually been thinking about this because I played Level of Alternative Total Eclipse, which is a spin-off. It's a spin-off. It's not a mainline thing. Wait, do you need to do this one? Have you not done Sunbreak?
Hello.
Oh, there's Amatsu. Never mind. I thought it was fucking. I thought it was one of the boss monsters. Like the fucking. Oh my god, I'm so stupid.
I was so confused. You're like, have you not done Sunbreak? And I'm like, hello. I'm like,
didn't we talk? I was like losing my mind.
I'm like MR 115 gamer. Maybe not 115. Something for sure.
So to finish my thought, it's like, so yeah, I really fucking loved Level of Alternative Total Eclipse, and it's actually like, I like it almost as much as fucking regular Alternative, which is already one of my favorite stories of all time. But as I was playing it, there's this level of like, I need to play more visual novels because there are so many that are well loved that I have not played, and part of me is like, I need,
I love
like,
Sorry, I love that you went there, because that was actually what I was gonna say is that like for me using. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No, did you start the quest? No, yeah,
I was waiting for you to ready up,
but then I realized, yeah, and I realized I forgot to eat. So,
so
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, just that like I think using that, like the clause for me at the time was definitely a crutch to make my stuff more interesting, because like I really started with like manga, because at the time it was like, okay, if I just had like when I first made my first like 3x3, it would have been like 6 Fukumoto series, because like while I read some manga, I had read a large enough percentage of great manga having been Fukumoto stuff that like it just would have been unfair to other things. But now if I did it, it would be like maybe 2 Fukumoto series would make the cut, So it's a lot better. And so that's part of it. And like I think it's like the same thing with the games, because like I definitely feel like, I wonder if a lot of other people have this as well. Like, or I say a lot of other people. I think it's something that probably only really exists like with people like maybe your generation, but like mine, I think younger people might have it, where it's like I played like a lot of games when I was a kid that were like single player or whatever, you know what I mean? And even going through like middle school, and then I had a period where I like just played one game. You know what I mean? I like just played CS and then like maybe some other scatter games, but really just like one game for years. You know what I mean? Like the entirety of high school.
Probably one of those, right?
And so coming out of that, being a lot older and having much like different how do I explain this? Like my tastes were so different coming out of like quitting CS and basically having that time to play other games. It changed so much from when I went in that I feel like everything I played before and after, like completely different people playing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when like I was first making stuff at that point in like 2017, it was like, man, like I haven't played that many games since I feel like I started really playing games for like the first time in my life. You know what I mean? Outside of like games I played as a kid.
Yeah.
And so back then it was like my game stuff was like way less interesting, or like there was stuff that was like I kind of played that I kind of liked that was on there, and I had to do it so that it wasn't like all like, you know, like Halo games or whatever. And then like, yeah, I just, you know, now it's at a point where that was 6 years ago. You know, I've played a bajillion games. You know, I could make a 3x3 of games I've played like this that came out this year that are like all 9s. Genuinely.
You mentioned like just like so the other day you finished 3 games or something.
No, it's gross. It's gross. I did finish 3 games in one day the other day, but it's gross.
I think you played them from start to finish, but you did just happen to finish all of them on the same day.
Yeah. So right before, so like if I go back a little bit, just to because I think I talked about this a little bit on the Weeb Club, but just to name them all. So if you go back to right before I got my PS5, so like if we just go to like early September, I played Ace Attorney 2 and 3, and then Great Ace Attorney 1, and most of Great Ace Attorney 2. I have the last 2 cases in Great Ace Attorney 2, but I haven't touched that game since I got my PS5 because I honestly just haven't been playing anything else. Oh, I also finished Shadowbringers, so the 3rd expansion in FF14.
Yeah. Okay.
And also throughout this year, I've played the first 4 Final Fantasies, and I'm like 3/4 of the way now through 5. But like in Ace Attorney, in Great Ace Attorney, I have 50 hours in that game, so like a good chunk for like 1 and 2, whatever. Then I got my PS5, and since then I beat fucking Miles Morales. I had to do that twice, but I got the platinum in it. And then I've done Final Fantasy 16, which took me like 70 hours because I did all the side quests. I've played 1 and like at this point a half playthroughs of Resident Evil 4. I'm on my 3rd Armored Core playthrough. I've beaten God of War Ragnarok. I'm almost done with Metal Gear Solid 1 right now. I think there's something else I'm forgetting. Oh, Spider-Man 2 as well. I platinumed. So I've just been like fucking gaming. Oh, and I did a run of DMC 5 Special Edition, and I'm in the middle of my 2nd run of that.
Cool.
So I've just been fucking gaming, you know?
Yeah.
How's Armored Core 6? The more I play it, the closer it gets to being my game of the year.
Nice.
My game of the year is really hard because I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. That's like the one I'm missing from my games of the year, I think. There's not really anything else.
For releases of the year that you're interested in?
Yeah, maybe Alan Wake 2, but I'm not going to play that game for a while because I got to play all the other Remedy games.
Are you not interested in Super Mario Wonder?
Oh, there's Mario Wonder. I would be shocked if that was a legitimate contender for Game of the Year. But like I also didn't expect like and I'm right on this, and I think if people act otherwise, they're being a little silly, even though I genuinely think the game was fucking great. But like people who act like Spider-Man 2 is a game of the year are very silly people, I think. I think that game was like really fucking good, don't get me wrong. It was one of the most fun games I played this year, but I just don't think it, like, it's not Zelda. From what I understand of Baldur's Gate, it's definitely not Baldur's Gate. I think Street Fighter was better. I think probably Resident Evil was better. I think Armored Core was definitely better. That game's so fucking good. It's crazy.
I'm interested in it. Well, because I think, because I've never played any of the other Armored Cores, but it's a From Software game. I've literally like went through and made a list of like every From Software game and what console it was on, just in case I like not even just like the fantasy ones like Kingsfield and the Souls games. Like, no, I've thought about like I might literally play fucking everything at one point, and that includes all the Armored Core games.
They're fun.
Because I know that they're obviously like from what I've seen, like obviously it's a different type of game in some ways, but there's still like crossover. Like I don't know, so hearing and like obviously I know like the Moonlight Greatsword and Patch I think patches actually originally come from Armored Core, or maybe not originally from, but they're also in those games.
Yeah, the Moonlight
like,
Greatsword in 6 is definitely covered by wheel skeletons. In my fucking mech game. Look, that game is so fun. Your mech goes so fast, and you can make it like my first playthrough. I made a mech where all I did was when I was picking like the parts and the booster and everything, I just looked at like I looked at the boost speed. I was like, what is the fastest I can make this fucking mech? And so then like I would just lock onto enemies and encounters, and I had like 2 missiles and an assault rifle and then a sword. And I would just like circle strafe everyone, boosting around them, outspeeding their missiles and shit. And then when I like broke their hull, I would go in with the sword, and it was so fucking fun. And then I think the best part of the game, like the most interesting thing, is like you just have so many options for mech customization, and it like feels different. Like right now I have like 3 mechs that I like have kind of been switching, like my second playthrough, because like at the beginning, so you can sell at any point, at least in 6. I don't know how the other ones are. You can sell any piece back for the exact cost it is. So if you want to at the beginning switch up your mech and customize it, the game doesn't like punish you at any point for buying a piece of armor if you want to sell it and get something else, you know. And it actively tells you that right at the start.
But like, I remember hearing people talk about it. It seems really like selling. Yeah, just seems really generous. Like, so yeah, in that case, there's basically no real cost for experimenting, right? Which is really
and
especially because I think for a lot of people, it's their first Armored Core game, and it is like. Because mech games are like the whole genre that's kind of fucking dead. Like Mech Warrior was one I was interested in a while back, because I watched, I forget the YouTuber's name. He did game reviews, and he reviewed some of the Mech Warrior games, and he made them sound interesting and cool. And I was like, oh, neat.
Yeah, I definitely
just the customization and stuff. So
want to play more mech games because of Armored Core, and I think Armored Core sold crazy well for the series. So I think that it'll bring in a resurgence of mech games. And it's something I've been saying a lot this year, I think.
When was the last one, actually? Because I'm wondering, like...
The PS3.
You know, yes, okay, so it's literally sold...
It was PS3, and they tried to force multiplayer into it, from what I understand, so it ran like shit.
Twice over. Yeah.
But... Yeah, like... Something I keep saying about this year as well is that, like, it's not just, I think, that there's a billion different great games. It's how varied they all are. You know what I mean? Because, like, if I just go through, like, lists of, like, the best games this year, you know, there was, like, Zelda, just, like, an adventure game. Like a, you know, just open world adventure, fantasy adventure game.
Action, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hesitate to call Zelda an action game. I'm sorry.
When I think like, adventure game, I think, like...
No, I understand that.
Well, yeah.
That's why, like, it's hard. Like, I would almost say open world adventure game. Honestly, kind of more of a puzzle game. Like, I really hesitate to call what you do in that game action. I'm sorry, man. Like, full disrespect to Nintendo. And I loved Tears of the Kingdom. I think that game's great. I really, in my heart of hearts, don't know if I can fucking call that shit an action game. But, like, you know, there was that. There was, like, Resident Evil. You got, like, survival horror. There was fucking Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat had great fighting games come out this year. Street Fighter sales are fucking bonkers. There was fucking, you know, Baldur's Gate, like a CRPG, a mech game, an Armored Core, fucking open world superhero game with Spider-Man, 2D platformer, like, you know?
Yeah.
Just like really varied games. It's super cool, I think.
No, yeah, it definitely, like, I don't know, my whole thing with games right now is that I'm doing that, well, because, so I'm not doing a favorite game replay anymore, but I am still just gonna pick through, like, franchises one at a time, so I just need to, like, fucking finish some of them, which is easier said than done, because one of the ones I started is Mario, and that one's gonna be fun to finish.
At least there's enough diversity in that you can, if you don't force yourself to do it in release order, which I wouldn't.
I'm not
for
I'm
everything.
not, because I'm because I'm kind of, well, so right now how I'm doing it is, you know, for reasons that you understand.
Yeah.
I'm currently not like, I've played a bunch of the old 2D platformers, and so my current like lock point is I'm not playing anything that Super Mario 64 or anything that came out after that. So well, I'm gonna mute my some other entries.
I'm gonna mute my mic before I say this, just you know, to be safe.
Okay.
Where's my fucking mic?
That's fair. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Okay. I think what I'm gonna do is I'll probably like I might just play 64 if like if I feel like a Mario game and I've literally played just about everything else. Maybe not literally everything else that came out before, because obviously there's certain games that I want to avoid for reasons.
Yeah. Are you gonna play Yoshi's Cookie? That's the real question.
I already did.
Oh my God, goat.
It was a puzzle game that like just kept getting faster and faster, so I felt like it was punishing me for doing well. Which is how puzzle games work, I know, but it's like it was just extra annoying because it was like it felt like I can't do anything at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, so okay. See, for some reason, someone died. I didn't even recognize that it wasn't you. I didn't notice that we had more people in the quest.
Yeah, no, I just died now. That was my first death.
Yeah, no, that's why I noticed, because someone else died
you know
earlier.
What? I forgot how to play this game.
You.
I'm sorry, gamers.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, I know Crafts wasn't muted, Luna. I said I was gonna mute myself, not Crafts. Crafts can say what he wants.
It was funny because they heard me just saying, yeah, like, yeah, you must have been spit because I was agreeing with you. They just don't know what you said. But yeah, so I'm trying to think of like what even games do I have that I could play that I'm interested in. That obviously, because the most interesting ones I'm not going to play. Because again, reasons I don't want to explain. But also I'm not like oh, I need to finish all the Mario games now so I can play Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It's like, I'm interested in it, don't get me wrong, but I'm also interested in like, fuck, even just fucking Super Mario 64 and Sunshine, right? And like Odyssey if you want to go like to recent games.
Yeah.
So, and it's such a big franchise, it's like, it's definitely one I feel like it's not, the point isn't to play all of them, it's to like, if I fucking feel like playing a Mario game, I have a game that I can, there's gotta be a game somewhere that I haven't played, right?
Here's my other Mario question. Maybe my more important one.
Yes.
Oh, am I supposed to Great Wire Bug out?
Yeah, I didn't. Oh, Great Wire Bug out. Okay.
Fuck, what was I gonna say? I don't remember. Something about fucking. Oh, you gotta play the DDR Mario game.
Wait, I don't remember what that one was called.
It's like Dance Dance Evolution Mario Mega Mix, maybe something like that. Hold on.
I don't know if I have that on my list.
Dance Revolution Mario, just Mario Mix. Damn.
Because I
added in a mega. I'm fucking washed up, gamers. I can't believe how fucking washed I am.
What's the most obscure Mario Kart? It's probably Mario Special, which is I actually played a fan made. Oh wow, I don't know if I have that one.
Dude, it's such a great box art, isn't it? Look at Mario fucking getting just down.
Peak. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure the most obscure Mario title I've played is probably Super Mario Special, which was a PC game that was apparently jank as shit. I played a port of it that just remakes it in the NES engine, so it was pretty fun. And then I did try some of the sports titles like golf, NES Open Tournament Golf, baseball. They were not good. But honestly, the ones I hated the most was fucking Super Mario Kart. That game is evil, and I hate it. I'm like, holy shit, I take back everything I said about the Lost Levels. The original Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo just is a game that hates you. And it's blatantly unfair. Like, it's not even trying to hide it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
What?
Not just because I couldn't beat it. I hated it even when I was doing well. Even before I got to a point where I literally couldn't win.
I love Palicos.
Alright, I think, okay.
Oh my god, I got all the fucking skills activated. Holy shit, we're doing the quest.
Let's go.
We're fucking beating this quest ass now, yes sir.
I could not get insurance, but it is what it is.
Oh, I didn't even try to eat for insurance. It is what it is. We just won't die this time. I got all my skills, remember?
Yeah.
Crash should play Mario Strikers. Well, I think he it from the sounds of it, has not gotten there yet, gamer. I think when he was talking about the Mario sports games, he was literally talking about the NES black box sports games. Like, there was no Mario in that title. He was just on the screen, gamer, you know?
I'm not playing it in release order, but I am, like I said, anything, not every, like, except for certain games of note, everything before Super Mario 64 is an option. So, like, looking, okay, oh, damn, I already played some of these. Yeah, honestly, the only one, like Yoshi's Safari, which was the Super Scope game, I can only play that on my PC. That's kind of the only one that's like remotely interesting looking. The Virtual Boy ones, there's a couple of those. Yeah, I don't really have that much that I can play. That's probably why I stopped playing them, because I was like, I played a lot of the interesting ones. I can play Mario's Time Machine or Mario's Missing. Let's go.
I would love to play Mario Wonder and do like a stream of it, but brother, I'm not spending $60 on that game. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just not right now. You know? Maybe another day. But even right now, I feel like after like next month, all my money is gonna immediately switch to going to fucking like pre-ordering games at the end of next January, February, right? Because like, I'm gonna have to get fucking, realistically, if I want to pick up everything I want that like week, I'm gonna have to pre-order like Ace Attorney and Tekken and Under Night and Persona, and then maybe I'll be good to pick up fucking Granblue. You know what I mean?
Oh, Persona 3 remake?
Yeah.
One? Okay, got that. I was trying to like, wait, which Persona game's coming out? Because yeah, still ways behind on that one. So I need to, I don't know. That's probably the biggest. That's by far.
Yeah, but look, as someone who tried to play a bunch of Final Fantasies this year, you can only do so much turn-based RPG before your brain turns off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least at a certain point, at least it does get a little varied, but they're still so long. Especially like specifically the Shin Megami Tensei. Like, not to say that Final Fantasy isn't, but I feel like you're more likely to find an 80-hour JRPG if you play the Shin Megami Tensei franchise.
It's not only 80-hour; it's the difficulty. Like, Final Fantasy games are so much easier. Like, SMT is like the hard series, right? You got to be using your buffs and debuffs, and like, it's not like, oh, I use my buffs and debuffs to like kind of chill out a little bit. It's like, I use buffs and debuffs so I don't get my fucking shit rocked. Versus, I feel like Final Fantasy is like, if you're using buffs and debuffs, like if you're getting into battles in Final Fantasy and you're using Protect and you're using like Blink, you are mopping the fucking floor with whatever you're fighting. Like, you only gotta use that shit for like super bosses in Final Fantasy.
No, I definitely feel like with Final Fantasy, it's more likely that you're gonna have like, here's the one strategy that works, and you just do that every fucking time. Like in Final Fantasy 1, I remember like haste and the gauntlets that also cast haste, and then you just fucking hit things for lots of damage. And the only boss I struggled on was Omega, I think, the robot who was added from one of the later games, where he was really resistant to physical damage. So
if he was added in later games, I didn't fight that shit. The Pixel remasters are basically just the NES versions.
But like, you know, because especially like you play games as a kid, and you're like, wow, this is hard. Like, I've never beaten a Paper Mario game, but one of my friends was literally just talking. I was talking to him yesterday, and he talked about how he struggled as a kid, but then he specifically went back to Paper Mario as an adult and beat it, and he was like, yeah, that game wasn't that hard.
No, kids are just like, dog shit at video games, dude.
Exactly. Right. So I'm thinking back to like, you know, finding, you know, Final Fantasy, and it's like, yeah, that game, like, you know, that game and Golden Sun were easy as when I was young. Like, I'm probably not going to struggle with it that much coming back.
Yeah,
right?
One that I think of a lot. Well, it also depends what age you consider like kid, right? Because I would say by like middle school, I was competent enough for sure that like playing a game, like, yeah, I'm probably better now, but that's just like experience better, not really like you know what I mean? That's just like I've played more games, you know. I understand their mechanics, and I've also played more varied games, so I understand mechanics across the whole better. But like a big one for me that I remember is like, I as a kid I think I've talked about this before, could not get past the Forsaken Fortress and Wind Waker. Like, that shit was too hard for kid me. So I would start that game and I would have so much fun on Outset Island. and then I'll get to the Forsaken Fortress, and I would like. I also though another big thing that hurts kids a lot in games, I think, is kids are so fucking bad at like spatial awareness and being able to map out a location in their head. You know what I mean? I remember I would get so lost in the Forsaken Fortress. That place has like 3 fucking rooms. How did I get lost? You know what I mean? Like I go back to that shit now, and that's like 10 minutes of the game that you don't even think about. But that was the game for like me as a kid.
Well, because I had a strategy guide, I'm sure, so I probably didn't like struggle with it, but I definitely like found it harder than it should have been, you know. So yeah.
Well, it's just funny because like now I go back to it, and it's like you run through in like 5 minutes, and it is just done. But like as a kid, it was like that shit made me reset. And I remember the first time I got past, I was like, oh my god, I can play the rest of the game. It was so exciting, like genuine.
The other 95% of the game.
Yeah, well, because like as a kid that like that's like barely into the game, right? You're like, I've got this first island, and you can see everything else, and you know you understand that like, okay, they've taken my sword away from me. This is not, you know, anything, but
yeah.
Yeah, the dungeon crawler FFs do get old. I feel like the way that like I play those is you just like you have what you do in like I don't know. Those games are interesting because it's way more just about. It's not about any individual fight. It's more about the toll that all the fights take. So it's way more about just prepping with enough like potions and then not using all your MP until the boss. But I don't know. The FF games also get way better as they get stories, which I think is one thing that SMT has going for it earlier probably, is that because it's based off a book series, it starts with, you know, stories and ideas, and it's very literary from the start. Whereas like fucking the first Final Fantasy game, like the most interesting part about it is that like near the end you kind of see some like ancient tech, and it's like, ooh, you're on a spaceship maybe, question mark, and then the game's over. And then also like there is the twist with Jack and Chaos, and like that's good, but like it's not like they were actually characters. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. Well, like, because I remember in high school they were like, oh, the first Final Fantasy didn't really have a story, and I, being the guy who liked the first Final Fantasy, was like, it's got stuff there, but yeah, it's not.
It doesn't have
I also hadn't really played a lot of Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
so,
it has like the only character in the first Final Fantasy game really is Jack, which like to be fair they recognize that, and like man has a game now, but
but no, I agree. Like even the first Shin Megami Tensei, like, you know, like as far as characters go, like there's definitely like a handful worth considering, and then the actual like the conflict is actually interesting, and I would say like one of the characters that I legitimately like. I specifically, as I go through the SMT games, I want to keep like a list of the characters that I like, specifically because like this character was like, whoa, literally the first actual like SMT game. Not obviously, because it was more like it was the third I'd played, because I'd played the first Megami Tensei games as well. But I found a character that I clicked with, and I was like, whoa, he's pretty cool and good. And so I just want to keep track as I go through, of course. But yeah, I still have way too many to go. What other franchises? Obviously Love, which I just played another entry of. That was so fucking good. Dude. Love is insane. Like, what I think, so this entry was interesting because, like, so obviously you know that the regular Love is, you know, there's the romance, high school, rom-comedy stuff, and then there's the sci-fi, military, alien invasion shit. This game, Total Eclipse, only took place in the military, it's only in that kind of setting with the alien invasion shit, but the romance is still there. And it's like it's still used, like they literally, so it's like they literally do the one trope of the what's it called, you know, like it happened in like Nisekoi and Sword no Tsushimoto, where the characters get like stranded on a deserted island and they have to like figure shit out in that kind of crisis situation. Like they literally do that rom-com trope as a way to like get the characters, you know, and have, you know, see them, different sides of them in a conflict, and have them maybe bond in some ways. And it's like, people are like, I don't know what the general reaction to the franchise is, but it's just so funny to me to see it be this, have these romance tropes, and like, I don't know, I feel like I mentioned it somewhere before, maybe I've just been thinking about it a lot, I really like when shit is just really, really smart, but also just really, really fucking stupid. You know, like
Plunderer.
One Piece, Plunderer, absolutely.
I think Plunderer is
right?
the
And
best
yeah, with
example of it.
Oh yeah, I think that I thought about it because I was reading Plunder because I also finished that. But with Mublove, it's like, yeah, it's because like basically how what this one's about is it sort of takes place at in a military base, a UN military base in Alaska. At the because basically the Soviet Russia got pushed out of the main continent and they were allowed to settle in Alaska by the U.S. So this base is literally at the border of the United States and Soviet Russia, and the main character is he's American Japanese, but he grew up in the South, so he experienced a lot of racism, and like he literally says like, oh, he'll have funny lines like he bleeds red, white, and blue, but then it's like gets sad when it's like, oh no, he's performing his like Americanness as a way to like distance himself from his heritage because of the racism experience, and it's like, oh no, it's sad now. Or the other character, Yui, she's like nationalist from a Japanese perspective, and like she's really down on herself because she has this very like perfect idealized image of Japan, and the fact that she's not living up to it is like bad on her basically. And so you have these two highly nationalist people like clashing, and you know it's sort of like, so it's got all that like interesting shit, and it goes in some really interesting cool directions, but also the main message of the whole franchise is the power of love conquers all, and I'm not even fucking kidding that love is literally like the most important force in the universe in Love, and it's fucking amazing like 10 out of 10, dude. And like I mentioned, like just the fact that it has such a close connection to, you know, harem romance comedies, that to the point where even this entry that doesn't literally have a harem romance comedy still has those elements, and that's part of it, the story that it tells, and it's so good. I love Mublove. Holy shit. Like I'm so glad that I have more to go through. Like I'm gonna be so sad when I catch up and there's no more Mublove until I wait for more to be released. So
tragic is like that though.
Yeah. At least more is coming out, but yeah. And it was cool to finally finish Plunder. It actually worked out pretty well because the last volume literally came out like 2 days ago, the day that I finished it. And because I caught up to the official release, and I had to go to fan scans, and it was literally like unreadable. It was garbage. Like I was like, I can't tell what these characters are trying to say. So I literally like stopped like halfway through the second to last chapter, and like, yeah, because I checked the date, and I was like, oh, the last volume is literally coming out in 5 days.
I think I'm dead. I'm dead.
Oh, wow.
Not if I get a chance to move.
I got you.
Thanks,
buddy.
I just got like hit 3 times just like, yeah.
So yeah, that's Plunder. Still really good, and also just fucking insane because like unfortunate.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do there. I got caught in between like both tornadoes. Maybe I can stand in the middle.
Yeah, he's doing a lot. He just goes crazy.
Well, he just like set both on like both sides of me. So either way, I tried to walk, and I didn't think I could get high enough. Maybe I can stand in the middle there. I actually don't know what I'm supposed to do. That was wild.
But yeah, I still like Plunder. It's still really good. It just gives you. It's crazy to read because it just like constantly recontextualizes what you know about like the world or the characters. Like it just, but also just Minazuki's just so good at like the composition and like the usage of the panels where he'll like do the way he does 2-page spreads or these big emotional like he's so fucking good at manga. I love it. So do you want to do a different hunt, or is this all you can really do or want to do?
I think it's all I have to do. Look, we'll get it eventually. You don't understand. I know you hate doing it, but I love smacking my head into a brick wall.
Vindy, don't talk to me about that, because I like because I think I've mentioned it before, but I have a friend who I play, like we played through the FromSoft games. We'll literally just sit down next to each other and just play through them. You know, not together necessarily, but like, you know what I mean. Like we'll talk about them and explore them at the same time. But like, I've literally beaten, except for Elden Ring, which I need to get one more ending for. I've literally 100%ed all of them, but he never beat Sekiro or Bloodborne because like he's better at games than me. I'm more persistent. I will just fight the owl round 2 for 2 hours and get my ass handed to me.
2 hours is baby shit. I'm sorry. It had to be said. Dude, I put numbers like that to shame. What was I was trying to do? There was a thing I was trying to do in RE4 the other day that I swear to God took like 3 hours. Oh, it was the beginning, because like the beginning of that game on a fresh professional save, which is the trophy I'm on right now, is like the hardest thing possible in that game. You know what I mean?
In that game.
Because you have nothing, and I had fucked up and I had cleared over a previous save, like my previous clear save, so I couldn't even like shoot the bell to make all the villagers run away. So I had to just like sit there and suffer. And it was tough.
Okay.
But like, I think the longest I've ever been was, I think the first owl in Sekiro took me 4 hours. I just sat there. It is good for that game that checkpoint is
so close.
Yeah. Oh, there was also a God of War boss that took me like 3 hours in Ragnarok.
Oh, interesting.
It was like an optional boss. Yeah, because those games have like.
I don't remember hearing about that game being difficult.
They have optional bosses that in 2018 and Ragnarok that are like really tough. But yeah, one of those optional bosses just kicked my fucking ass.
Did you take the Aurora?
Yeah.
Did you take this guy? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it was still there, so I wasn't sure if you took it or not.
Yeah, there are like optional bosses, and I just kept getting unlucky where it was like because like it's two things when I'm on a boss for that long that really cause it, right? One is like I am too stubborn. First of all, I don't want to go to bed mad, but like even though I know that like realistically the best thing to do is to just go to bed, come back tomorrow when the boss movements, everything are soaked into my brain, and beat the boss's ass, right? But I don't want to do that.
If you go to bed while trying to solve a problem, your brain will literally work on the problem subconsciously.
No, I know, that's what I mean. And I would come back and be the goat, right? But I can't do that because it's not about that part of my brain. It's about my mental. And if I let a boss beat me one night, like I just give up to the boss, and then the next day I come back and first attempt he just dog shits on me, I'm uninstalling the game. You know what I mean? I don't have that dog in me. So I will just sit there until I beat it, you know? And it's that, and then like it happened like 5 times where I got to the boss, I was like 1 hit away from beating him. You know, he was like 1 hit, and then he would just kill me. And like the more that happens, the worse it gets for you to like not have it continue to happen, you know? But it was tough.
I will say my favorite story about your stubbornness was the Old Iron Keep, where you like
that was another example
out of spite, bitterness, and anger after God knows how many hours, and then literally you never haven't touched the game since. Like you just like, I beat this part, I'm done with this fucking game.
I can't do it, dude. I couldn't do it.
Dude, it was so funny. So like I watched a show called Devs, which was a miniseries about basically to spoil the premise, which, you know, because it kind of doesn't want you to know this going in, but it's the most interesting part about the show. Basically, Devs is in a larger company. They basically made a simulation of reality, and so it literally that brings up sort of questions about like free will and shit. And but there's one part where like a character is just playing Dark Souls 2 in the Old Iron Keep, and he just he dies, and it just zooms on his face, and he's like, I died, and I'm like, that's the best part of that game that you could have used for that clip.
Yeah, that's intentional.
That's right. Like, it's just,
look, I stand by. I
perfect.
think that is the worst area I've ever played in any game. You know what I mean? I think it, especially.
Sure, I can't think of anything else either. So,
especially considering just like the quality of the previous game, and even like the quality of other areas in the game. Not that other areas in the game are actually like great, but just they're so much better than that one. that area.
Well, Dark Souls 2 definitely, like, the way you need, I felt like, the bow and arrows to kite enemies away, and the way that so many areas are kind of like, because one of the things I like about a lot of the other, FromSoft games, you can literally just like run past enemies, and like they say you want to get to the boss really quickly. But Dark Souls 2 hates you and won't let you do that.
Yeah, it
like,
places the enemies where you can't do that. The other problem with Dark Souls 2 is you don't have invincibility when you hit the smoke wall. So you can try to get to the smoke wall. It's the only Souls game that does this. But if you go to the white fog and you start traversing it, you can get hit out of it and die getting into the boss room, even though you made it to the wall. Which that's ultimately what makes it so doable to do
about that, yeah.
boss runs in the other games, is that like all you have to do is get to the wall mashing A, and you're in there like swimwear and you're good,
Right.
I guess Elden Ring doesn't do that with every boss, and some of the bosses just exist in the world.
They're just on the map,
dynamically,
right?
yeah.
That's true. But even then,
Because of that enemies, it's easier to get past enemies, and you have torrent until you get to a boss, so it's a lot easier to run past enemies. So it's not as big a problem in Elden Ring.
Yeah. I don't remember any instances of like there's a field boss and there were smaller enemies that weren't also felt like they were part of the boss fight. Right?
Yeah.
Like what I remember is there was one of the falling star beasts in the Golden Kingdom area.
Well, okay, I haven't finished Elden Ring.
Oh no, this is that this is that part, and I wasn't gonna spoil you. But basically you can run by, and on torrent and just get to this boss, and
that's what I was gonna say as well. Is like torrent just makes it so easy to run past.
Right. Yeah, also, but no one like follows you to the boss area. Like you have to kind of deliberately like. In order to be fighting that boss and small enemies at the same time, you kind of have to do it deliberately. Like, I feel like the game's more careful about that. I forgot that you hadn't finished Elden Ring.
The last thing I did was I'm in the snowy area after the big city. So I fought all the way through that big city that you get to, and then the snowy area.
That's pretty close to the end of the game.
It's like 2/3 of the way through or something, right? What I've heard is that like the big difference from where I am isn't that necessarily. I think from what it looks like, and here's part of the problem. Is it looks like there's like two kind of branching paths. One of them is I don't know how lengthy, but like side area. There's like this little side castle to the side, and then the other direction very clearly is like forwards. And I just kind of started doing the side path, and I was like a boss, and I wasn't feeling it, and I stopped. And then like the other part is just like I've played that game so scattered. Like the first like 50 hours of that game were in the first like month and a half that game was out, and then it's been 20 hours since then. And, like, it's so scattered at this point. I'm like, maybe I should just replay that game. But also, I don't want to fucking replay the game. Because, like, I had done so much content going through it. Like, the problem is I simultaneously don't remember enough of the game to feel like I would really say that I completed the game in one file. Like, I kind of played the game in two halves if I finish it now. And then the other problem is, like, I'm not... Like, there's actually a couple problems. Because one is I'm not experienced with the game right now. Like, I would almost need to play, like... Dark Souls 1 or 3 all the way through as a primer just to get myself back to like the experience level that I need to complete content at the point in the game I'm at. And then the other problem is just that like I would just restart it, but like I did so much of the side content, the side bosses, and I could obviously just not do that again. But like, I also don't want to go like look up shit that like I did. Like I don't want to have to fucking look up how to like do the Ronnie quest line again, Like, fuck me, man. Like,
yeah, and well, cause like obviously the thing about like playing Elden Ring is that cause like
it's just too big.
But it's so big. Well, right, but like, cause obviously if you know what you're doing and where you're going, you can like specifically like, oh, I want this item, so I'm gonna go do this dungeon, right? Or stuff like that. But like you don't know what you did or what like. Yeah. Because like when you're exploring, everything is new and interesting, and you're always doing new content. Where you could go through a dungeon and be like, wait, no, I've done this one before. Or it's like, did I do this one before? Because there's obviously like they all follow similar like aesthetics and templates, not templates, but like there's different kinds of dungeons. And,
the problem on top of that is it's just like it's almost been like because they put so much time in, it's like the game hasn't been long enough where the game isn't gonna be fresh again, So it's like I don't want to like have to slog through some of the early parts. But I also don't like. So Elden Ring is a game that like, even though I haven't finished it, it is like so far for me on the like. I do not give a shit about this game right now. That It's funny. It's like I might just start telling people that, like, yeah, I'll finish Elden Ring after I replay all the other FromSoft games. Just to fucking lie. Fair. Just to lie. Because I'm not going to do that. You know? Maybe I will. But, like, that's just a lie. I'm not fucking doing that. I just don't want to have to explain that, like, you know, God's favorite video game fucking Elden Ring.
You just explained it.
I think, yeah, I know. It's, like, too fucking... It's just too long. I'm sorry. Like, I get burnt out on a Souls game. I can only get fucked in the ass by a game so much. You know what I mean?
No,
so,
I
like,
think
35 to 50 hours is perfect. 100 hours is not.
Yeah, no, I think because people, like, the arguments people have for that, because I do like Elden Ring a lot, and I obviously did finish it, but the games I feel that way are, at least historically, I'm dead. Pikmin and Spelunky 2, or no, Pikmin and Spelunky 1 have, like, the perfect pacing, I feel like, where Pikmin 2 and Spelunky 2 give you way more things to do, but to the point that, so, like, with Pikmin, okay, one day is, like, what, 10, 15 minutes, right?
I'm dead.
Like,
okay, we can do other stuff. I don't give a fuck about doing this. This game sucks. We'll just do... You know what? Let's just do... Since this might be the last time I play this game, we've been doing this for an hour. Just start picking. I'll let you pick. Just pick your favorite monsters or your favorite hunts from this game. I don't give a fuck. Let's just do the hits.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, to finish my thought is, because with Pikmin 2, I remember, or with Pikmin 1, you just do a day, it's like 10, 15 minutes, and it creates this good gameplay loop of, like, okay, do a day, okay, you got a breather to just, like, where are you gonna go, you know, just, like, read a diary entry, and then you just get to, and, you know, and it's just really cool and chill. Pikmin 2, you have the dungeons, which have infinite time on per floor for the most part. Like, obviously I know there's at least one exception, but it's, like, the hardest one in the game. But it's like, time is such an important part of Pikmin's gameplay that removing that element kind of, like honestly, the dungeons, like, because if you play them, like, safely, because you don't want to lose Pikmin, you end up, like, spending more time in them, and it's like,
yeah, it kind of, like,
it just
slows
so tedious.
It takes the fire out from under your ass.
Right. So it's so then so much of the gameplay becomes those dungeons that it's like, well, where's I just don't feel it, right? Because you have more content, you have more stuff to get, but it's like, you know, and yeah, I like finding a new thing, and it's like, oh, funny name, you know, like, that's cute, right? But it's also like, I also like having each of the parts in the original Pikmin, they have there's like history to them, and they all matter to, like, most of them matter to Olimar and the ship, right? So it's like, you know,
I think
so there's more.
Sorry.
You're good.
No, I think it's interesting because, like, that's just something about, like, time, time, like, limits in games like that is, like, they're so interesting because, like, obviously with, like, with Pikmin, like, the first game, you know, not only does it light this, like, fire under your ass as you're playing, where it's like, yeah, like, you gotta be fucking on the ball, you know, you start a day and it's like, all right, what am I doing today? How am I moving? How am I keeping my Pikmin moving? How am I being, like, the game, you know, begs the player to be efficient and constantly wants efficiency to be, like, high on your mind.
Right, and think about, like, how the map is laid out.
Yeah, and you're planning routes Pikmin,
and right.
And then having and that's just for the daytime limit. And then having the overall time limit, I think, is interesting because it turns playing Pikmin, like, I almost feel like it changes the verbiage you use when you describe playing it. And I think that, like, what's interesting about that is it changes the way you think about the game in, like, an interesting way. So, like, it's the difference between just, like, playing the game through once and you do, like, a run of Pikmin, right? Because, like, no one's kind of expected to 100% that bitch and complete the ship on their first playthrough, right? So you kind of do a run of Pikmin. Yeah. You know, you run through it, you see how you do, and especially because the game overall is shorter because of that time limit, it's like you do a run, you know? I think, you know, they're just... Any kind of time limit game like that is, like, shorter, you can kind of look at like that, and I think it's interesting because it's a different way to make a game. I think Resident Evil games are also like that, where, you know, even though they're not time limited, they're so short for the most part, most of them, it's like you're not kind of meant to play those games, I think, multiple times, you know?
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember. I think the first time I finished Pikmin, it was 100%. But it took a few playthroughs to get to that level. Because I was also in high school. Like, I was older.
Dude, Kid Me got my ass, dude. Although, you know what I will say about Pikmin, actually, that I have to give it crazy credit for? I think as a kid's game. Even though, like, kid me would never have gotten, like, 100% playthrough of that game. I think what's really, really interesting is that, like, because of the way the game allowed you to do objectives, I could be not efficient in that game and be pretty bad at it and still feel like I was accomplishing more than I could in most other games I played. Because even if I wasn't really killing it and being really efficient, and even if I knew I wasn't being perfect, I was still doing something, you know? Like, every day I was still able to achieve some objective.
Right?
Yeah.
You didn't get any parts, but you have more Pikmin now, right? You lost less and you know, so like...
Well, not even that, like, I was able to bring ship parts back or find a ship part, you know what I mean? Like, every day it felt like I was able to achieve an objective that made me feel like I was doing something, whereas, like, you know, when I would get lost in the fucking Forsaken Fortress, even though, like, Wind Waker was one of my favorite games as a kid and is still, like, a game that, like, it's one of the games I look back, like, most fondly as a kid, like, playing, you know what I mean? I can, like, look at Pikmin and always remember, like, doing something and feeling, like, accomplished when I played that game versus Wind Waker, where, not frustration, because I think, like, there was almost, like, some, like, Sisyphean, like, solace I found in being able to just run this same, like, hour-long section of Wind Waker and make it take, like, 5 hours every time. You know, I literally was like Kid Sisyphus with fucking Wind Waker, where every fucking couple days I would delete my save and be like, time to roll this boulder back up the fucking hill.
And then you crest the hill and it's like, wait, that was just like the curve of a sidewalk.
Dude, I genuinely still remember. Like, it is one of the, like, most ingrained in my head things I've ever done in a video game. That first time I got past the Forsaken Fortress, I went and told my older brother. I went and got John, and I told his ass. Because, like, it was both of us. Like, combining our fucking 2 IQ, we couldn't get past that shit. And I was just sitting there playing one day. And I was like, I'm doing this shit. And all of a sudden, I, like, saw that cutscene at the end where, like, whatever.
Yeah, the bird comes in.
Yeah. And, like, I remember finishing it, and I got the Dragon Roost, and I paused the game, and I ran to my brother, and was like, I just got past the Forsaken Fortress of Wind Waker. And I kid you not, I was way too old to have cared. Like, I don't think I had touched the game in a couple years at this point. So, like, it really didn't matter that much, because, like, I swear to God, I think I was, like, 9. And, like, most of the time when I played the game, it was when I was, like, 5, like, 6, you know what I mean?
Okay, gotcha.
Right. It was, like, years after I had, like, really played the game a bunch. Because, like, what happened when we were kids was we had our GameCube, and we played our GameCube a lot. And then we got our Wii and played our GameCube a little bit less, but still played it. And then what happened was we got an original Xbox that my dad had gotten from someone he knew at work that could mod it. Yeah, I've talked about this a bunch.
And it was,
And we never touched that GameCube again because, like, at the end of the day, as a kid,
well, you're gonna play
you don't really care.
Or
so we already had a Wii. So, like, if I wanted to play like a Nintendo game, there's a higher chance my ass is popping in like fucking, you know, something on the Wii that I can, you know, do the funny Wii controller because I'm a kid and that's more fun, you know. Or like it's gonna be like some shitty multi-platform game that I'm just gonna go rent at Blockbuster and be able to play as much as I want. You know what I mean? So, we like never touched it again. So it was like years after we had like, you know, struggled and fought and clawed tooth and nail to not even get past this area. I remember going and telling him, but he just did not care. But it was like life changing for me. I like just started playing the rest of that game. I was like, this is my life now. I could not believe it.
Nope, I've also been lost in that game, so it's very good.
But like because of that, Outset Island is one of the most like burned in my brain. Just like both the music and the island itself, and like that little kid with the snot bubble hanging from his mouth, and like oh my god, like that
music,
that fucking.
I bet like you just hear like a couple beats of it, and
I right now can just do it. Like I'm just thinking it in my head.
There we go.
Yeah, it's like da 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 da. Yeah. No. I know I could. Yeah. No. I fucking that song is like in my brain, and it will be forever.
What if memories?
Yeah. No. That shit is so burned in my brain. I'm picturing the like island right now, and I know where all the hidden rupees are that you can get on a beginning playthrough. Like, I don't know, I guess, where everything you can come back to is, but like as a kid, I, you know, literally like pushed every nook and cranny of that shit. Part of it because like you don't know where to fucking go. I think it's something I think about sometimes. Like as a kid, you know, I was been so long in like environments and locales, and like even like other people. Like there was like a League of Legends reference in Spider-Man 2. I'm gonna be honest, my ass did not pick up, and I don't like speedrun games. Like I don't like intentionally try to be quicker than in them than I have to.
Yeah, but it's like you're good at like you understand. Well, especially like I remember Luigi's Mansion was one of those. Maybe I'm using the word wrong. Watershed moments because like I was struggling with the game. And my dad sat me down and was like, fucking read what the characters are telling you and learn how to play the game. Like, and where it's like, wait, what they're saying is important? Like, I literally somehow didn't get it before Luigi's Mansion. And, but, wow, if I actually listen to what you guys is telling you, I can actually understand how to play this game. Because it wasn't, Luigi's Mansion plays a little differently than most other games, right? Like,
I don't know if
like,
I had that issue, but that's because, like Luigi's Mansion was one of my like first games as a kid, and like I think by then because like you know I got my start playing games in like the era where games had like you know started to have like real tutorials before you played, so I was just kind of used to like
that's a
some
good point,
character in the game telling me how to play because that was what most games were for me at the time, you know.
And I started playing games in the era where I never put that together before, because I played on the Super Nintendo first, where you had to read the manual, and you know, so I wasn't really used to the game just teaching you how to play it.
And like to be fair, some games obviously I played didn't do that, and I can tell the difference between like that and other people. Like, oh my god, nothing makes me more mad than playing like a game with friends, or like playing like especially playing a game with friends where it's like we're all together and it's like a console game. And like we all pick up, because like this was something that used to happen a lot more with like my friends and I when we would hang out in person, and like my buddy would download just like random games off Game Pass and we would play them, and like it would surprise me all the time, because like the first thing, if you hand me a controller in a game and I am sitting down looking at the game just like whatever, right, what is the first thing you're gonna do if you are just controlling a character on a screen?
Press all the buttons, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? You're just gonna press all the buttons and see what every button does, right? And I feel like other people I know will press buttons until they find a button that does something and then not press any other buttons. And it's almost set up, if you've ever seen the sequelitis on Mega Man. I actually think the way he frames playing that game through like people only experimenting with the buttons when they get stuck is interesting, because I guess that's how some people play games, but like I would never even think to frame it like that, because the first thing I will do when I take control of a character in any game that isn't, if it's a game that like from the first minute I take control, it's tutorializing stuff for me, I'm not gonna press buttons until it tutorializes it. Because like Spider-Man was a good example, right? The first thing you do when you take control is it's like, oh, press this button to web swing, right? And so like the minute you take control is like web swinging, and like everything you do, the game is like tutorializing any action before you do it. So I'm not gonna press all the buttons, because I assume that pressing a button before you teach me the button isn't even gonna work in a game like that, right? But most games, I'm gonna press all the buttons, and I will like play with friends that like just don't. And so you start doing stuff, and they're like, "How are you doing that?" And it's like, "Brother, did you press Y?" You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm doing complicated stuff. It's like you're doing stuff where you just press a button, and they're like, "How are you doing that?" So I just blows my brain that like people don't get handed a controller in a game and just like press every button and be like, "Okay, what does this do? What does this do?
Admittedly,
how do I play the game?"
One pet peeve I do have, I think I have it on Steam, I forget which one it was, but it's one of the Shantae games. I just decided to try it because I was like, oh, people like this franchise. I hate it when a game just sets you in and there's like enemy, like a game, you need to have like space to do that, right? To experiment with the controls and stuff, right? And not just like in Mario, right?
Yeah, you need like a Mario 1-1. That actually, I can't believe that you went to this. Sorry, because I knew you were probably going to say the same thing, but like that is my immediate thought, was the space in 1-1 before the first Goomba, right?
Right, because you have that opportunity to, like, you don't have a manual, like, okay, how do I move, right? And of course, like, the level design, the Goomba forces you to jump. But even before that, you have a space where you don't have to do anything just to experiment with the buttons. But then, so when a game jumps you in and it's like there's action, like with Shantae, it bugged me because it's like, I'm on PC. I have way more buttons than you.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know what key to press.
I don't even know it, like, and now enemies are attacking me and I'm about to fucking die to the fucking first Goomba in Shantae, and it's like, I don't know how to play this game yet. Fuck this game. Like, I was on a bad foot with that immediately, and I have not touched the Shantae franchise since. I put down that game after that session. Like, I played it for longer after that, but it left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm sure, you know, there's good stuff in that franchise. I just, you know, have
Dude,
no,
Risky
not
Boots
had
is the
particular
good stuff
desire
in
to
that
go back to it.
franchise. I will keep it a buck.
Which one?
Risky Boots. She's the pirate with her tits out.
Yes. I think it was Risky's Revenge was the one I played, but
okay, so the Metroidvania one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pixel art
remember
Metroidvania one is Risky's Revenge. The other like modern one is Half Genie Hero.
Yeah, and I know I found out about it from the original Game Boy Color title.
Yeah.
I Nintendo Power, but I never played it. I just looked at. I went through my Nintendo Power so much, and Game Informer's just looking at all the games.
Oh yeah.
It was really weird going back to some older issues and seeing them especially Game Informer previewing games that were Japan only, and I was like, this is a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 game. And recognizing these pictures of these characters that I didn't know at the time, obviously, but now I did, or Berserk, and it's like, that's so fucking weird.
It's really interesting that they would do that, because, like, that's just crazy. You know, that, like, they previewed,
right?
like, it's such an interesting, like, just era of the time where games would get made in Japan, and, like, it's a mix between games being just cheaper to make, so, like, you know, because like obviously now I feel like if even a Japanese game studio is gonna make most games they're gonna make, unless it's like a cheap anime game that like is dog shit, right? If they're gonna
King Kong apparently.
Well, okay, but that's not Japanese made. But yeah, like if you're gonna go through the
not
money and trouble to make a game, you're probably gonna make something that you're gonna want to go through the trouble of localizing. Otherwise, you're just like not. It's not worth making the game, right? And there's probably a few reasons. That one's like there's actual sales to be had in the West now. I think the other thing is just like games are literally too expensive, and the Japanese market is not big enough.
When you were talking about cost, I was like, because I've been playing a bunch of Mario games, and they're a lot like Yoshi's Cookie reuses assets from Super Mario World, and the assets that are unique to that game don't look that good. Like they look definitely like not quite the same, a little jank, right? And
and it's like if an NES game looks jank,
like,
you can imagine how cheap it was made for, right?
Right. So there's just, but now, and I was comparing like, okay, like all these fucking like almost shovelware Mario games versus like how nowadays when we get a Mario game, it's even like a spin-off title like Mario and Rabbit. Like I was looking, like we've got like what 3 or 4 Mario games in the last few years, if that, like maybe 1 a year, including the spin-off titles. Like we just get so fewer Mario games now, right? Because games are so expensive to produce, even. You know, right? Like,
yeah, well, and when you think
I'll just make a Mario,
and I'm sorry.
It's gotta be,
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking like
go
what goes into like making one of those games, right? And even just comparing like the most basic Mario sports title to like one of those like Yoshi's Cookie, right? The art in Yoshi's Cookie was probably done by one guy. The music probably done by one guy. Programming probably like 2 guys maybe. You know what I mean? And they like a team of like 4 slapped that shit together in like 2 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was actually no, that's Yoshi. Never mind, I was thinking of the Yoshi on the NES. That was actually Game Freak. Oh, I died. Wow.
But like you know what I mean? Like it's a small team like scrapping this game together versus like if you get like a Mario sports game now, there's probably hundreds of artists and programmers.
Yeah, there's one guy who does baseball bat.
Right.
Right.
And one guy who's like, okay, here's how all the different baseball looks. Baseball, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much more that has to go into it. So many more people, and this projects get scaled up so much more that, like, when you really think about it, it's like actually bonkers, you know? Yeah. Dude, 2K this guy's pale. Jesus, on him.
Real quick, because I'm looking at chat, Luna asked, I assume Dark Souls 2 being playable. Did you play Dark Souls 2 or Dark Scholar the first sin?
I played Scholar, but I
okay, so that was the better version. Okay.
But, I mean, either way, the movement...
I mean, better
he's talking about the movement patch, I assume.
Oh, I don't know about that. I didn't know about
There's
that.
a movement mod that just came out. So, you know how, like, Dark Souls 2 movement is, like, locked, like, 8 directionally?
Uh-huh.
There's a
make
patch
true
that
analog,
a mod that just came out to give you true analog movement in DS2.
Okay.
Which is actually, I feel like,
that.
huge for that game because of how many times the game wants you to do really thin margins of walking or puts you on, you know, on ledges or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just dog shit, piece of shit fucking game, dog shit level. Okay, I didn't comment.
Why the fuck did they make invincibility frames a fucking attribute?
That, like, why are there so many like, I'm just thinking about, like, the area where you have to fall down to get to the sewers, or, like, the area with, like, the dragon rider. Like, there's so many fucking pits and shit they want you to just fall in that game. Because they want you to die as many times as possible, so that little fucking world number of how many times people have died give you. I hate that game. I hate that game. I really fucking can't stand that game.
See, I don't hate it, because I do think there's really neat things about it, but it's still, there's so many weird, bad, just baffling decisions.
I hate that game, and I will still say, I think visually, it is by far my favorite Dark Souls game. I don't think there is a single Dark Souls game that visually stacks up to it. I think I like it more visually than Elden Ring, I think. And not even just visually in terms of, like, the actual world design, which I do fucking love. I love the enemy designs. I love the environment designs. I love everything the art team put into that game. I love the fucking armor. It's got my favorite, like, box armor in the series. I also fucking love the UI design, actually, in that game. It's got my favorite. It's such a small thing. I love the colors for the health bar and the yellow on when you deal health bar damage. I think those colors are so good and so satisfying. Like, I love, like, the art team of Dark Souls 2, like, genuinely killed it so hard. Like, if the gameplay and level design was just, like, honestly, like, half as good as Dark Souls 1 or, like, as good as Dark Souls 3, it would be, like, my favorite Dark Souls game. Like, by far, I think. It just, like, is so bad in all the ways that matter outside of art. It, like, blows my brain.
Yeah. Because, like, I remember there's, like, one boss fight I remember finding, like, satisfying, but, like, what kind of took me out of it is, like, some of the hitboxes were so bad. I think it's Fume Knight.
Fume Knights are
some
tough.
of those hitboxes were so bad that they felt unfair. But, like, other than that, I was one of those boss fights. I was sitting there for an hour, possibly plural, you know, working, you know, picking through and eventually doing it. And there was part of me that felt satisfied, and the part of me was like, how much shorter would that have been if the fight was less jank? You know, like, so it's like I couldn't even enjoy a part of the game that I did.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, my enjoyment was hedged just because, like, it's Dark Souls, you know, and that felt bad because it's like, you know, I want to, you know, like, and I do want to go back to the game because, like, I got 100% achievements, but I never beat all the bosses. Like, the Skull of the First Sin, Aldia, is literally a boss that I didn't know about until, like, after I finished the game. I was like, wait, what? You could fight this guy? You know, and like, and then so there's a part of me that wants to go back and, like, truly 100% it because you know, there's stuff in that game I didn't do, because when I played through the Souls games, I think I've already talked about how I want to also, like, pay attention to the lore and you know,
like, actually, like, really try to piece shit together on your own.
Yeah, because I feel like people are maybe, you know, people have weird takes on, like, or the take they have on storytelling is, like, they want it to be a real, genuine world, and maybe don't try and think of it like how much of those videos on lore, you know, FromSoft game lore is just, like, filling in the blanks with fan fiction, right? It's like that, because that's not really, like, what I'm looking for. Like, I have a whole video on Dark Souls 3 and, like, what I get out of, like, the endings of that game and how it, like, reflects the thematic thrust of the franchise. Like, that's really cool and interesting to me, but, like, how much does the other lore also work with those ideas, right? Like, that's a bit more what I'm interested in rather than, like, and yeah, but, like, because, you know, like, you know, because that's how it explores its characters and stuff, and I think that's neat, and I want to dig into that element and really understand what the fuck was going on in Demon's Souls, because I can't fucking tell you. Honestly, like, I like that game, but, like, there was a king, and everything was shrouded by fog, and fuck, dude, I don't know. I just killed it. I killed him, like, twice, and the game was over. You know. Yeah, but I think I was going somewhere with that. So yeah, I'm interested in playing. Yeah, I'll play Dark Souls 2 again for sure. I'm also gonna try Kingsfield first because I wanna see what's up with that. because it's a precursor. So
yeah, I think Kingsfield would be cool. I want to pick up Demon Souls now that I have a PS5 really bad, but it's like the problem is I feel like the price hasn't gone down that much, and
did you ever play it before? Have you not played it before?
I got to the spider.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, so yeah, one thing that's interesting / weird about Demon Souls is that it's because I think it was Matthew Matosis who talked about how like all the bosses are really different from each other, like that but that can be a plus and a minus, because yeah, the armored spider is you find him in the one hallway, so he feels almost more like a classic video game boss in a sense, like something you'd find in like a Zelda game or something.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
a boss you'd expect from Dark Souls.
That game is just it's dealing with the same problem at the end of the day that you know what? Fuck it. It's got the same problem that like I have with Bloodborne, like just undoubtedly, which is like farming for healing fucking sucks.
Yeah,
it's dog shit. It's awful, and like it honestly, like farming for grass is better in Demon Souls, which is crazy. Like it blows my mind when I even play the other game where you have to farm for your healing items that isn't Bloodborne, and Bloodborne's is still worse. Like it's so bad. I don't understand how. It has to have just been the people making that game were playing it so much that they were so good at it that they just didn't think about how awful it would be for a player to reach a point on a boss where they get run out of healing vials and have to go farm them, and it's like that's bad because it ruins your flow of running the boss. It just
because I hit a point because I did at least start. I'm pretty sure after I got to a point where I was good enough at the game, I actually did start over again, and I was able to farm so many blood vials early on that I really didn't run into that issue at all, because I was constantly getting them enough that I never functionally ran out, and even when I did, I could buy them. But that again required being good at the game, which isn't really like a good. Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from.
For sure, that I actually think for the most part is pretty fair to the player. Like I actually think Dark Souls isn't that punishing compared to other games.
No, I agree. Yeah,
like any Mario game before New Super Mario Bros. DS is a more punishing video game than Dark Souls. I take it back. Before Mario World.
Yeah.
Because Mario World, I forgot Mario World lets you save progress. Yeah. So any game before Mario, I could even be taking an argument that Mario World save system is more punishing than Dark Souls save system, just like undoubtedly,
Mhm. No, yeah. As someone who's played the old Mario games like twice in the last year, pretty much. I use save states in all of them except for World and 3, because
the fact that
those are. Yeah, because those ones are actually, they're. I mean, 3 is still, I think it's still punishing in a way. In World, I agree, but it's also they're not hard enough. I feel like where the older ones are just so difficult, and it's like, oh, you died 5 times, start the whole world over from the beginning, motherfucker. Yeah, do that level again, bitch. Like when I finished the world, I just hit do a save state, because fuck that. I'm not. Yeah, well, I don't know.
Well, even Mario 1 like isn't even just that. You can literally like just have to go back to the beginning of the fucking game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I don't even remember that because I never let myself.
Even if the game is shorter, being at the end of it and being forced to go back to the beginning for losing is just more punishing than anything Dark Souls does to the player for dying. Because at the end of the day,
that's basically like permadeath, right? That's like
and the most Dark Souls does, like, one of my favorite things that I'll do that, like, I realize just doesn't matter anymore in Souls is, like, if I don't have enough Souls for a level up and I'm stuck on a boss, at a certain point, I will just intentionally, like, get rid of my Souls so, like, I don't have to worry about it anymore, And if I'm just running the boss, I can just run the fucking boss. And
without like, oh god, I gotta get my souls, and then I can really fight.
Yeah, and in that instance, the game like has zero punishment, realistically, in my mind, for like failure. Like if you just put me back at the bonfire and I just have to run back, sure, that's some punishment, but like you're not giving me any tangible punishment at that point for dying.
Yeah, and even then, I feel like, because the whole thing with the bloodstains is they go back to, they're where you died. Like, they're at a point that you got to already, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you get there before, in theory, you can get there again. So it's like, it's just, it's just, do the same thing again, but with higher stakes, basically. And even then, the stakes are just like, you know, if you just, like, don't, you know, if you just be careful and, like, because, you know, like, you can, at any point, just go back and, you know, safely tuck away your souls, basically, right, into levels, and, like, at any point, but, you know, it's a matter of, like, just greed, in a sense, in some cases, right, so, but what were you gonna say?
Well, I feel like that's the other thing about souls that people don't talk about enough, is, like, souls do not matter at the end of the day. Like, you think they do,
sure. Like,
but, like, anytime, like, you have a lot of souls built up, the game's gonna give you a checkpoint where you can go spend them all. Like, it'll give you, like, a little backtrack to go spend all your souls. And if you don't have enough souls for a level up anyways, then the amount of souls you have is so baby nothing that you will get, like, 3 times that from the next enemy you kill. So who gives a fuck?
Yeah, and if not now, you'll be getting that many souls. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like by the time you need them to
later on
level
in the
up,
game,
you will
like,
be getting.
Like, when I first played Dark Souls, I remember, like, fighting the which one is that after? I don't know. That's south, I guess. Like, I remember, like, oh no, I lost 1,000 souls, and then, like, after I beat the game, I'm like, I cared about that? Like, you know, like, oh, just, it was only 1,000 souls? Like, that's fucking nothing. Because yeah, it seems like so much at the beginning of the game, because, oh, that's a whole level. But even then, like, a single level isn't going to make that much of a difference. Right?
Yeah, and by the time, like, you reach, like, near the end of the game,
our equipment, right, to the point that you can literally beat the game at soul level 1 with lots of equipment, right? Like, people did that challenge way back in the day, right? So, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, they're just that. Yeah, I agree. To go back to I guess Armored Core for a second, because we're talking about FromSoft. I was gonna say earlier, what's cool about the game is because, like, so you have to finish the game 3 times to get the turn day, right? And when you finish a playthrough, it just puts you back at, like, because, like, the mission that you have, like, or the menu you have when you start the game, like, you know, it shows, like, the shop and, like, your garage for your AC, and, like, then it also has, like, here's where you select either, like, the arena or, like, to go on, like, a mission, right? So that menu just doesn't change when you beat the game. It just throws you back there, and then it just, like, the next mission you have just resets to, like, chapter 1.
Okay, so kind of like how you beat Dark Souls, and then you're just in the cell again, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But, like, what's great is you don't lose any parts you've bought, and you don't lose your money. So
there you go.
Once you reach, like, towards the end of your first, but once you have, like, that first mech built out how you want it, and you don't really need to upgrade it anymore, you can kind of stop selling parts, right? And so what's cool is I'm at the part now in the game where I just have multiple mechs built. And so instead of having to, like, if I want to change my mech, I don't have to sell parts anymore, right? I have multiple, like, custom pre-saves built, and then the game has a section to save different, like, custom mechs and, like, give them a title. And then you can go into, and what I didn't realize until, like, almost the end of my second playthrough, mid-mission, if you die at a checkpoint, you can switch to a different mech.
Yes, I've heard about that.
So, like, I just totally played through my second playthrough, and I'm going to make, like, 1 or 2 more ACs going into my third, and just, like, completely switch whenever I want, you know? And I felt like I had that freedom, especially because, like, after finishing the first game, I was like, okay, well, I know this mech that I have, this AC that I have in my back pocket can, like, beat the game. Like, I can beat the game with this AC. So I really let myself, like, just experiment with other ones, because it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, if I really get stuck at any point, first of all, I already beaten the game, and, like, my second playthrough took me, I think my first playthrough took me 25 hours, and my second playthrough took me, like, 7. Or no, 15 hours to 7, I mean. Sorry, 15 to 7.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, it's just so much quicker once you know what you're doing in the game.
Yeah. For sure.
And not even because, like, it's like an over, like, you go into a mission, and so you start in a mission, and it's like, do this. It's just that, like, playing the game and being better at it, you know, you're dying less, whatever. But, like, that's what's, like, gets really cool now is just, like, being able to have, like, because, like, they play so differently. Like, I mainly have 3. I have, like, my really fast one with a sword and, like, an assault rifle and missiles on his back, and then I have one that has treads and just has, like, all explosives, and it's just like a fucking tank, and he just, like, drives at people and has, like, really high, like, armor, so he's, like, hard to kill, and he just blows shit up, and he's just like a tank. And then I have another one that I built that uses like quad legs that like when you're in midair you can use them to like cover. And so that one's like a helicopter that'll just like fly over shit and just like rain down like heavy artillery and like just like machine gun fire. And so it's just like so cool being able to like build these different mechs and just like really like just have them sitting there and just whenever I want be like, yeah, I think I'm feeling this one for this mission. It's really cool. Like I think that game is like super sick.
Yeah. There was another chat question. Ombre is asking me how would I like of Yes Precure 5. Oh, I literally like I went up to look at the chat message. I looked back and I'm on the Zenogre. Where's the other one? I don't know where he is.
Just run him into the wall then, yeah. Oh, there's some yellow bugs here. You can, yeah, you got it. You're the goat.
I was gonna go for the other bugs, but they're too there. I was angled badly. Yeah, I guess Precure 5, it's fun so far. It clicked with me a little better with, because the antagonists are like a fucking office worker but evil organization thing. So they're using that as like, the children are trying to figure out what they want to do in their lives. And it's like, well, what's the worst possible thing you can do? Become a fucking salaryman and crush out all your childhood hopes and dreams, right? So it's and then the way they'll use that in contrast to whatever the villain's doing with the whatever the protagonists are doing is nice. So I definitely think like aside from like the 3 antagonists in Splashdown and Precure Precure that are really fucking good, like as a group, the antagonists in Yes Precure 5 are the best ones up to this point in the franchise. No, it's fine. It's fine. I like it. I don't know why he calls it Smile Precure Light because I don't see a similarity aside from like it's Precure. Because like I don't know, the messages I got out of Smile Precure were completely different than what Yes Precure 5 is exploring so far. So yeah. That's fine. I like it. I'm mostly excited for Otona Precure, especially, which I don't know if you know about it, Vindy. It's it's airing right now actually, but it's a sequel to Yes Precure 5 that takes place like 10 years later. So the characters are fucking adults, and I don't even think they're magical girls from what I've seen.
That's kind of sick.
Grown-ass adults figuring out their shit still.
That goes hard.
Friends after. Yeah, no, I'm really interested. That's a big part of the reason why I decided to watch. Because also the characters from Splashdown are showing up. If they haven't shown up, there's like art of them as adults too.
Is it being made like demographically for little girls now, or is it targeted at people who were fans when those were Precure shows that are now also adults living in the real world?
So when I read about it, it was on the weekend just commenting on how it's the first Precure show to be aimed at an older audience, and it is also the first Precure show to be. It's a co-production between Toei and Studio Jean, so they're not even like it doesn't air at the same.
That's really interesting. I wonder.
Yeah, there's a similar. Or go on.
That just gives me so many questions about like, because like, about just like how it was made. Because I wonder if it was like, Toei had the idea and like kind of took it to Dean as like, could you guys make this? Or if it was something where like people it's being made by people who were really interested by the idea and like doing like an older story, almost like a fanfic in this Precure thing, and took it to Toei and were like, hey, we want to kind of do this. Will you license us out this show so we can try something kind of different with the Precure license?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Because I would assume that the staff working on it would have to be like somewhat passionate about Yes Precure 5 right? To be making a sequel to it.
Yes.
Like that's crazy.
Well, that's what's because and Precure, it's really interesting like what Precure is doing lately, just because it's like it's the biggest magic girl franchise in Japan right now.
Right.
Like it's one of the biggest anime franchises. Period. Right. Like it's fucking it's fucking big. But like what I'm really glad for is that they're not letting themselves stagnate over it. Like every season continues to be like cool or neat or interesting in its own ways. And especially like so Hero Girl Sky Precure has the first 18-year-old main Precure. She's an adult who's like she's studying to be a daycare worker. So it has the first male Precure who he's literally just a dude who just like is a Precure, one of the main parts of the groups, and then they're doing Otona Precure 23, which is it's a sequel to it's a 10 years later sequel to one of the older shows, And they also announced the Mouse Sky Preacher 2, which is the first sequel we've gotten since, we haven't gotten it yet, since, Yes Preacher 5. Like, because since, after Yes Preacher 5, they did Fresh Preacher, I think, was the one. And and since then, they've only done these iterative, like, Super Sentai and Kamen Rider year-long shows, right?
Right.
So, but then they decided, okay, but we're going to do this one, Mouse Sky, we're going to give this one a sequel over 5 years later. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, like, they're not they're doing stuff that's, like, a little bit different, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's still Precure, but there's levels of, like, you know, they're not just getting...
They're not just, like, doing the Kamen Rider, like...
Yeah. Well, I mean, because and that's not to say, like, Super Sentai has fucking been putting out, like, crazy good shit for that. Like, there's, like...
That's true.
I've caught up with Lupin Ranger versus Cat Ranger. There's one series that I wasn't super into, and everything else has been good, if not like really good, then just or really fun and just real like fucking Zen Kaiser was like cracked, and then Dawn Brothers is like, okay, but this is to go even further beyond. Like, it's got to be one of the stupidest things I've ever watched, and it's amazing.
I wonder if, and I don't know if this is the same like in Japan, but I wonder if it is where like part of the reason they feel like they have to keep it interesting and like maybe have to do
part of the reason
older.
with Super Sentai specifically is it's been under threat of cancellation for years. Like, it's not doing very
well.
well.
That's what I was gonna
get
get to. Was that like I wonder if part of it is that like especially when you're dealing with kids is that like your competition isn't other TV shows. It's shit like TikTok, and it's like
nowadays,
the dopamine receptor. Like the amount of
Yeah.
dopamine as a television show you would have to just fucking shove into a kid's eyeballs to give them anywhere near what TikTok's gonna be able to give them is so bonkers crazy that it's not possible,
nowadays,
right?
yeah.
So it means you have to really step up other aspects if you're gonna appeal to kids, or you have to change what you're doing so that you are appealing to the audience that like is already gonna be somewhat invested, since you just have to give up on kids unless you're gonna completely change your content strategy to meet TikTok demand, which I think no corporation will ever be able to capture any kind of internet content creation, because part of the reason it works so well is just part of the reason TikTok works so well is because it's user generated. You get such variety in content and also such like I almost want to say like depravity, but it's just like it's so amateur and so out there sometimes that like the surrealism of what you'll see allows the short form factor to like work. Like something that's gone through focus groups would never work on TikTok, because for a TikTok video to work as short as it is, it has to just be unhinged.
Yeah, and then you also have to like in order to I imagine the most popular TikTokers also probably just make a bunch of shit, right? And you can't like
that's what you have to do, right? You just gotta spam.
Like, there's a volume that you can't make in a lab, right? Like, so it's like it's just and like because there's just there's the breadth of types of content like you were saying, but then when you do find a type of content you like, if it's popular enough, like people are gonna make more of it, right? So there's gonna be a depth to it as well, not necessarily in the content itself, but in the amount of content where you can just like, I only like anime TikToks, boom, you're set for life, right? Like you're not gonna run out of anime TikToks, right? Like that's just how it's gonna work.
Yeah, well, that's
getting into whatever else you have on the platform.
Yeah, and it's also I think TikTok is too, and like the modern media is too quick, right? People are too quick to both drop and like to pick up and drop stories, jokes, memes, whatever. That like something that has to go through focus groups and all types of people and everything. Like obviously, I think certain types of media are different. Like, I mean, obviously, whatever. But like I think the big one that is the most threatened by something like TikTok is TV. Right? Because like TikTok isn't going to be able to replace a video game, and so they're always going to be there, and you can't really make good video games quicker or cheaper than they do right now. If you did, they would. You know what I mean? I think movies will always have a place.
Successful, they would. They right?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I don't even know if the game was made cheaply. In fact, I would actually assume that it was probably actually expensive, but it's like the fucking production schedule just fucking collapsed. Or something. That's probably more likely.
Well, and you have like Well, I think it is made cheaply if you consider time, right? Like, I think because they only had a year, it's cheap. Not that, like, obviously they had to spend a shit ton of money in that year to give everyone jobs, but it's that, like, you know, compared to a game that takes 5 years, right? And it's probably a smaller staff. So but, you know, I think that, like, movies also are pretty safe just because, like, there's, like, the theater aspect, and I think there's enough, like, movies are able, because it's just one of them, are able to get away with enough, like, not pomp and, like, circumstance, but, like, what was the word? Like, there's enough, like, they're bombastic enough that, like, a movie kind of...
They're the highest, I think, honestly, like, even compared, like, it's like video games and movies are the highest level productions, right?
Yeah.
Like, because even, actually, yeah, like, obviously you can make movies in your backyard. Actually, in that way, I'd say movies are actually harder, because it's like, you need more than one actor, right? Like, movies are inherently more like, because games, you can, like, you know,
you could be Toby Fox,
right? Or whoever the developer of Cave Story was, right? Where it's like, you got the art assets from a friend, and then he made a really fucking solid game out of them, right? Like, everything else was just the one dude, right? Like, you can, but even then, yeah, like, sometimes like a miracle, like, obviously most indie games aren't going to be that, but you know, Undertale did happen, Cave Story did happen, like, you know,
Five Nights at Freddy's did happen.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a fucking, like, indie game success story for you.
Yeah.
Like,
speaking of literally one man making the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I don't know. I know basically nothing.
The first, I think, like, 6 Five Nights at Freddy's games were made by one guy.
Wow, that's okay. Yeah, that's really cool.
He was
nice.
pumping them
right.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and so I think.
Where television is, but it is a middle ground where it's like, obviously I think we're getting live TV now. My friend who I recommended me devs feels like we're in a golden age of television, because it's like you're getting so many, like, solid shows, right? And you know,
yes, but my argument would be that, like, kids aren't watching television.
Yes, I agree with you, and like even if when TV is as good as it is, it's like there's still this level of just, like, yeah, right. Well, because I didn't watch it, but I do remember seeing that there was a video talking about how, like, yeah, fucking kids aren't watching traditional media anymore, like television. Like, they give more shit about Mr. Beast than they do Disney films, right? And Pixar.
Well, and that's what I mean is, like, and movies are hurting from it. I think movies will overall hurt much less than television will. Like, I think movies will hurt. Yeah. I don't think movies will die from it. I think that the new era of, like kids, obviously it's not something that I think would happen for even, like, 20 years, because as long as people, I think, roughly our age, who, like, anyone who grew up watching television will always probably continue to. So until that group is the minority, I don't think television will die. But I do think it will eventually, because I think that, like, it just does, like, I get it sometimes for myself, just, like, sitting at home, where it's like part of it is also just the dopamine, right? Like, I keep seeing people post shit from this fucking Quest 3, because I don't know if you know this is a thing in the new, like, Quest 3 headset, like the VR headset. It has an augmented reality mode where you can put it on your fucking head, and, like, it turns on, like, cameras, so you just see around you like normal, but you can just, like, have a little floating, it's like the fucking AR glasses in the SAO movie. You can just have, like, a little floating YouTube video or TV show there while you're going about your life. And I keep seeing videos on my TikTok of, like, people doing chores with just, like, a little movie playing or, like, a little YouTube video playing. And it's just dopamine being fried, right? But, like, I saw one today where a guy was doing the dishes. And because, like, while you're in that mode, it'll recognize your hands, so you don't have to hold the controllers. Motherfucker was playing Slay the Spire and watching a movie while doing his dishes. And, like, that's life-changing shit, right? But also, like, as someone whose dopamine receptors are personally fried, and I've been sitting here playing a lot of games, a lot of the games, since I'm playing on PS5, I'm sitting here playing on the PS5 and my computer's just sitting in front of me, right? And so there will be times where, like, you know, I, like, have something up and I'm, like, watching something, and you pause it when you get to, like, a cutscene or a story moment. But, you know, especially when I was playing, like, FF16, I was doing a lot of side quests, or Spider-Man, I was just swinging around, like, I got some shit playing. And I actually find it hard sometimes, because I'm using it as background noise, to want to turn on a TV show, you know?
Yeah.
Like for background noise, it's like hard to be like, yeah, I'm gonna turn on a TV show that I'm gonna have to constantly be pausing or doing other things. And I think when a lot of people are using it for background noise, like it can be hard to choose something like a TV show, because like I do kind of want to pay more attention to that versus like shitty YouTube videos. I can just put that shit on and not pay attention. And if I don't even want to pause it sometimes in a cutscene, I'll just take my headphones off. You know, like I do not care if the shit keeps playing. And so I think that's like even worse and worse, you know, as people's just dopamine receptors get fried and they just want noises in their ears. I think the YouTube and online content like that goes up, and traditional media goes down, because like as much as it sucks to say, even like the most dog shit traditional media, I think asks too much of the viewer for today's like modern age, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely, because like I'll be watching something, and even if I like it, like I might lose focus on it because my brain wants more, right? My brain wants more input than just like, yeah, like a TV show can offer me necessarily, you know. And so, but I need to like, you know, because I want to give things my full focus and attention, you know. So it's like, but you know, like one thing I've started doing is I'll put in my fucking AirPods, and I'll fucking like while driving, I'll be listening to catching up to Critical Role, because I was caught up for like a week and then I fell off of it and I'm like, fuck, right? So it's like, you know, but like, so, and like it's also part of it is my, you know, like I want to experience all the media and all of the things, and that there isn't enough time in the world, and no one's created a hyperbolic timetable yet where I can watch anime and not be a useless piece of shit for a year. in one day, right?
Dude,
like,
I would be so much more productive if I could take myself, all the games I own, and like my computer into a hyperbolic time chamber for 2 years, come back out. I would be the world's most productive man, I think.
Right. Yeah, but it just ain't like that. Unfortunate.
like especially if you gave me like a week to prep, you know what I mean? Anything I didn't have, I could make sure I acquired.
Yeah.
I would come out of that year a learned man.
For sure. No, it's definitely a dream. But yeah, but no, because like, yeah, I do kind of understand that feeling of like, yeah, like watching the movie and playing a video game while doing dishes, right? Where it's like, go, well, how the fuck else am I going to do all the things I want to do? But like at the same time, like, am I giving the thing enough respect and really getting enough out of it in doing, if I'm not giving it like my full attention, right? Like if I play a game, like,
yeah, I get that.
Obviously depends on the thing. Like Monster Hunter is a game where it's like, I'm either playing it alone or I'm talking with other people, and we're literally we don't need to talk about the game because it's reduced to muscle memory because I've put thousands of hours into it, right? Like, you know, I don't even think you have thousands of hours in it, but it's still like you're
no, but I've got like 400.
Yeah, but but my point is like you're still, you know, able to play the game and just do just fine you know, without like putting all your, you know, brain focused energy power into it, right? Is more because it's like you have the gameplay loop and the system's down.
Well, look,
to the point that you can,
you know, and so, as someone who you know is totally cool with like turning stuff on like my phone while doing dishes, and I don't think you honestly lose anything doing it. So I could totally imagine if I could have just even more in my line of sight, a little video playing, it would not affect that at all. I just don't think it would be good for my brain. Like, I don't think it would be good for me at all to get used to wearing a silly VR headset to constantly have stimulation all the time. Because, like, I saw a video today of, like, people taking it to the gym, and he was, like, doing my workouts while, like, watching, like, Spider-Man. It was like, brother, hello? Like, I just couldn't. I just don't have that dog in me, I think. And, like, I think it's really cool tech. And, like, honestly, part of it is just how bulky it is. Like, that is tech that, like, when it gets smaller and I could put it in, like, glasses, you know, you will go back to seeing my ass wearing glasses.
Yeah.
And, like, I have said for a long time, but, like, I totally will when I can put, like, a little fucking, like, speaker inside, like, my ear. And it's, like, safe, right? And I won't, like, go crazy because the thing fucking bugs out and I hear shit 24/7. But I can, like, you know, put, like, a little noise thing in my ear, and so I can have music playing 24/7 from like my phone or whatever, dude, my ass immediately doing that shit. You know, I do not care. But yeah. Obviously not happening anytime soon because the forerunner in that is Elon Musk, and I am not putting an Elon Musk chip in my brain. I have self-respect.
Yeah.
Not even self-respect, actually. I have self-preservation.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
No, what if it like lights on fire like his cars?
Well, you know, that's the one joke. The other one is that like the fucking monkeys he tests it on like all go insane. So I don't think I want Neuralink. Cause like, but like to be fair, I would go crazy too. Like if I got the little speaker and it like bugged out and I just heard like crackling in my ear 24/7 because it broke, like I would kill myself. That's what I mean. Like that shit's got to be like pristine before I get it in. But I totally would. And so if I have that with like some fucking glasses or like the iPhone from Futurama, where I can just like see shit in front of me, so maybe not projecting it to everyone, just you know. Not because like I'm watching anything bad. I just still like don't want everyone to know because like I would do that shit at work, but like
I fucking
like imagine like I'm there.
Flight,
oh, sorry, what?
Like I had my laptop up and I'd be watching something. And it doesn't matter that it's a fucking Disney movie or something. Like it's not like I'm doing anything wrong, but I just don't want people to see it. Like,
dude, I get that. That's why I really think the strat. Like sometimes I'll play my Switch on a flight, but like I took flights to Vegas. The real strat for a plane is just a book. Just read a fucking book.
Yeah.
Cause like
I bought a book, but I was so tired on my way back home that I didn't have a chance to read it because just the way the flight times worked out. But and it was fucking like it was it was you know, a bit of a smarty boy book in that like I had to focus on it, and when I'm tired I'm like, God, I can't do this right now.
No, but yeah, like I just don't want, you know, I don't need people at work knowing that I'm fucking sitting there watching a Joseph Anderson video. You know what I mean? Especially because they'd be like, why are you watching his God of War video for the 3rd time this week? And it's like, gamer, I just need something playing on my ears so I don't go insane. All right? And I think that video is goofy. Same with this Fallout one. It's like it's a 3-hour video. I can put it on and not worry about it for 3 hours and just live my fucking life.
Is it good?
What, his God of War video? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good.
It's fucking solid. I think he makes some good points, but I don't know. Okay. I'd be curious to see if he makes a God of War 2 video because I saw a little bit of like his streams as he was playing the game.
Oh, it's on God of War 1.
Yeah, it's on 2018.
Like the original game. Okay.
2018. So I mean Ragnarok. I should have said 4 and 5. But...
Oh.
No. I know. That's on me. That's on me. Just because like I don't know. I think it sounded like he kind of not missed the point, but kind of missed the point a little bit. Well, like it's weird because like it's a game. Okay, I completely get why people have an issue with it because it's an the entire game is asking a very subtle question that gets answered subtly, but it's so good because like the entire game is building up. And to be fair, I think Joseph Anderson is normally pretty smart about it. Like, I think if he replayed the game and wasn't streaming, he'd probably have gotten it. But like it's okay. So like the entire game is setting up to like is setting up the question like, can Kratos change? Right. That's the entire point of the game. And at the end of
which makes considering he was a fucking monster in the trilogy.
And so at the end of 2018, which is a big question in that one as well. But 2018 is more so like, can he be a better father for his son so his son doesn't follow the same path he does? Where 2018 is like entirely like because of the end of that they see Kratos dies, and there's like a moment where they go to see the Norse version of the Fates, and they tell them like exactly it's like we don't see the future. We just see the choices people predict. We can see like they tell you, they're like, we don't see your future, we see all of your past, right? So they're like, we see the choices you made in the past, we can predict the choices you'll make in the future using that, you know? That's like how the game sets up how prophecy is made. So the entire idea is that if Kratos keeps following the choices that he made in the past, he finds himself on a path where he would die, right? That's like the entire point of the prophecy. So the entire game is, can Kratos change? And then the game shows that he does change, and then that's kind of it. And there's never even like a fake out death for it. And I hear the take that people have where it's like, oh, there should have been like even a moment where he came close to dying and didn't, or something, or how did he break the prophecy? And it's like the entire point is that the way he acts as a whole in the climax of the game, after he has the character development he has the whole time, is what stops him from ending in a situation where he would die, right? Like, the fact that he didn't come close to dying is proof that the character changed, which part of even Ragnarok isn't even him, like, because, like, he's changed so much by the start of Ragnarok from where he was at God of War 3 that it's not even, like, can he change? It's more like, did he / can he prove to other people that he changed, you know? Because, like, they all kind of see him. There's even a moment where, like, they make fun of him in Ragnarok of, like, oh, so now, like, you still kill gods, but, like, now you're sad about it? And then it's like, yeah, like, the difference is he has to not kill gods, not just kill them and be sad about it, you know?
Right.
And it's not to say that there aren't gods. Right.
Sure.
And it's not to say there aren't gods he doesn't kill in the game. He does, but it's not like God of War 3, where even though it's the end of the Norse games, it's not you go through and you kill Thor and Heimdall and Odin and the entire pantheon,
like,
and
I never played God of War 3, but what I've heard about it's basically like, yeah, he's finishing the job.
He's killing the pantheon. Yeah. And that is not what Ragnarok is. And, like, that's the entire point the game is setting up. It's like, you know, can Kratos change and be a better person? And he does. And that's the entire point of the prophecy. And, like, I feel like people get too hung up on, like, needing something more direct with it. Which, like, I understand wanting, but at the same time, like, the entire point, I think, was that, like, if he truly had changed, from the beginning, he was actually never gonna die, you know? And so I don't know. I think it just, like, a lot of people, because I had a friend who I was talking to about the game and said, like, a similar thing, and I just think it's, like, maybe the game being, like, too subtle with that moment for, like, not even people to not get, but just people to not be comfortable with, which I understand, feeling like you set up this whole prophecy where it's the end of the last game. It's, like, the big thing at the end of the last game to, like, set up this game, and then the entire game, it's, like, all people are talking about, and it becomes this whole big thing where characters know about it but don't know other characters know about it. So it's like the driving force in the game is this prophecy and the tension surrounding it, and then for it to kind of feel like it goes nowhere. But, like, I feel like it's good that it goes nowhere, because the fact that it goes nowhere is proof in and of itself that the character genuinely changed, you know? And, like, the point of the game is valid.
From, like, you were going to die to, like, he literally didn't even have a point where he almost died.
Because, like, because he changed, and the actions right. And there's, like, because especially there's, like, a whole moment in, like, after Ragnarok has started in the game, and you are, like, in the, like, war of Ragnarok, which, yeah, I don't know. There are some complaints I think about it, and I think are valid, but then, like, it's like you are after the point where Ragnarok has started, and Kratos, like, has a moment that, like, looking back on is just clearly the defining moment where he just, like, fully seals he's not dying, right? And he, like, has, like, a whole, he's like, you know, we're not fighting this just for, like, vengeance anymore. Like, we're you know, we're doing this for the right reasons. We're going to change our approach and stuff like that. And, like, that is, like, the moment where it's, like, sealed, like, oh, their, like, prophecy is, their fate is different now, you know?
Oh, nice, you got the tail.
So I don't know. I think it's silly that people, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm so fucking like, cause yeah, like you probably saw the question where I was talking about the manga, because you know, Oda's art is bad because he doesn't have paneling, and it's like, but people just don't understand how to read manga panels. Also, like, have you considered this? And, like, so hold on, I need to read this question. I'm gonna answer it on you know, Twitter eventually, but it was like, it's still very funny. Not funny, haha, but it's like, well, I definitely appreciate your general stance of always wanting to give stories a fair shake, and generally holding great respect for authors. Do you think it can sometimes make you too cynical in regards to audience perspectives? I'm like, I don't think I'm cynical enough. I hate these fuckers making these bad faith takes.
Yeah, what is the audience?
Angry and pissed off. Like, I want to smack some of these bitches.
What
is
the
my real?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I actually feel. Like, I'm too nice. Like, that's. I'm not gonna word it that way, but that's just. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, fuck, dude, I'm so done.
Wait, like,
with
what is the
people just being so angry? And what are you gonna say?
What does the audience have to do with it? Like, when I'm talking about, because at the end of the day, like, outside of, okay, so there are times where the audience matters. Let me adjust that. The audience matters if the audience has a direct impact on the work itself, right? So I think good examples are like live service games or games that change, right? or
Yeah.
serialized stories when you talk about changes made in maybe the plan overall or how things are presented from over time.
There's definitely stuff where, you know, like, I feel like
Yeah,
there's levels of, like, awareness of what people say. Like, I think like Lindsay, I was talking about how the live-action Disney films also kind of work as responses to what people say about the originals, right? Like, oh, Beauty and the Beast, we have to explain all the shitty rules because it's, even though it's, and lose a lot of the expressiveness and fun of the original because people care too much about this dumb shit that doesn't matter, right? Like,
yeah, and but I feel like anytime the audience comes up and their reactions to things comes up, it is like the exception that proves the rule. That for the most part, what the audience thinks does not fucking matter. And I also think for the most part, like in the same way, what critics think does not fucking matter over like the work itself, because, you know, when it's out, it's out, and it's not changed by, you know what I mean, like other shit.
Yeah.
The only time that that's obviously different is in the example of like a like something like any of the ones that you name, where it's like something changed because of what the audience said about it, right? Versus like, you know, like something like this game, like they didn't even like this game, even though it technically is a live service game, like they didn't change Rise after it came out based on public perception. You know what I mean? So what the audience feels playing Rise, what like most Monster Hunter fans think, does not matter to the game I'm playing. I'm sorry. Like, if you want to talk about that when you're talking about a game as a whole, sure, I guess it can be important in, like, a retrospective or something where you're trying to look at the game and other aspects of it, you know, or if you're talking about, I guess, a sequel, then, like, audience reaction to the previous thing can inform your decision of what changes are made and when, but, like, I don't know, like, that's such a silly, like, you can be too hard on audience reactions, like, no, because the audience doesn't have a say in how the work is made. Like, at the end of the day, like, I feel how I do, or, you know, you feel how you do on audience reactions because of how you feel about the work first, right? Like, an audience reaction isn't bad because it's bad. It's bad because it's not representative of the work.
Yeah, like you even said, like, those One Piece pages aren't bad. Like, the paneling is not bad. It's people who just, like, they're overthinking it and they don't understand what order you're supposed to read it in and why, because, and maybe it's because, like, one point I want to make in that video I want to do is actually I want to talk about the you know how at the start of manga, or at the back of manga volumes, they'll go like, hey, you're reading it the wrong way, and they'll have a little diagram telling you how to read it.
Yeah.
Like, because I noticed a lot of those aren't really, like, good.
They're not good. No. They focus too hard on the left versus right, but not how not how horizontal and vertical intertwine. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Like, which is so important to manga, and well, because another point I want to make is, like, because I feel like I kind of understand why people, like, one of the reasons I mentioned in that tweet is because it's like, because the issue I run into is, like, yeah, my brain wants to go right to left just because that's how I read as an English speaker, right? I have some pages saved of fan translations where the text is written up to down, and it fucking hurts my brain, right? Like, even, you know, because it's like, well, it's like,
well, to be fair, it's not just how your brain works. It's also how the language works, right? Like, English isn't written.
That's
like,
true.
the letters don't flow to be written
up
and down. They flow to be read horizontally.
Especially, like, now that I mentioned that, the ones with the tails, like P and G.
Yeah, and also, like, circle ones, like E and G and O and even, like, L and I. And
I'll add that to my notes so I don't forget, because that's really good to know or think about. Because, like, but it's also, like, because you're, like, so I have a page of Chiaipru that confused me, because it's like it's divided into two panels. There's, like, one on the left and one on the right of the page. They're both really long panels, and the first line of dialogue is in the bottom right, and the second line of dialogue is in the upper left. My brain wanted to read the one in the upper left first because it's at the top, right? And that's how I'm used to reading. But I'm not saying, like, oh, Suigetsu's a fucking hack. She doesn't understand how manga works. It's like, no. It's
you're the one who doesn't.
Literally wired differently. Like, it's a fucking gigantic cultural difference that, like it's. I haven't really thought about this or heard many people talk about how, like, isn't it fucking weird that when we read manga, we're reading the whole thing from right to left, but in the individual panels, we're reading from left to right because it's written in English. Like, that's
no, you're right.
Really, like, wrong, right? Like we are making that, like, and people have to recognize the. What we're doing is, like, we're transforming it, and we have to recognize what the way we transform it is like impacting how we read it, right? And it's changing it. And like, because I also want to make a point about like digital versus physical, because like I've seen people complain about things without recognizing like what you're reading is going to be archived in a physical book. Like, you can't make changes that work for a digital medium when it's not made for a digital medium, right? Like the primary audience reading it is reading it physically.
Right.
Like the primary audience is going to archive. Like I have my like one panel I think of is the one from Luffy versus Doflamingo where he's like goes Bounce Man, and
What?
I think the panel where he says Bounce Man, it's not centered in the bubble because it's in the version I read, it's the digital release. But when I pick up my volume, the book gutter is in that bubble, so it's like I literally like I wouldn't be able, if it was centered in the bubble, I wouldn't be able to read it in my physical copy, right?
Yeah,
and, it's amazing how often people don't think about that.
I was gonna say
right?
that would be
Like,
something I think, especially a great example of it that I think genuinely I would try to show like a bunch of examples of, and even people love to give you examples of, are the spreads Oda does where he'll do panels on the right and panels on the left going down, and then he does big picture in the middle, right? I think showing a bunch of those, like the difference between what it looks like with the gutter and without, will genuinely help people realize that, like, yeah, reading this digitally, it kind of sucks, but it's like kind of perfect for like a magazine or physically, where you look at it and you have like words on the, like you have your panels on the right and the left that you can like look at and assess, and then you have the big picture in the middle that you kind of look at differently, right, when it's physically, and you can just kind of see this big picture with the gutter, but it's fine that there's the gutter there because it's like kind of in the middle of the picture where there's not as much important stuff, and you know what I mean? Like I think showing the difference so that people can try to remember that, like, ultimately.
No, I remember the point someone tried to make was that they thought it was the double page, because it was over 2 pages, but it wasn't a full, because Oda hasn't done a full 2-page spread in years.
Yeah, like one where it's all
like one panel
picture. You mean? Yeah.
Yes, and someone was saying like, oh, the spread of Odin carrying the scabbards in the pot of oil, that would have been a really good like moment to do that. But then I cut, I just like cut it in half, and it's like, no, this looks bad. Odin's face is in the gutter of the book. This doesn't work, right? Like this does not, like, because he's in the center of the frame, and you can't, like, I think I even added on to that, like I showed some other examples. This was on Twitter, it was someone else's thread, but I just pointed out how it's just like, when you see a 2-page spread, the object of focus is not in the direct center, because it's not like, because it would get ruined by the book gutter. You have to, it's off to the side. Like it accounts for the 2 pages, and you like. Another thing I want to, because I want to talk about digital reading and how like phone reading might affect it, because like as someone who's gotten over it, like one thing I still like don't like about phone reading, it has nothing to do with phone reading itself. Because it's like, it's not even Tachiyomi. Tachiyomi is actually really good about 2-page spreads, because it'll show you the whole spread, and then it'll zoom in. So it'll allow you to read the spread as you want, basically, by zooming in and out. What Viz will do, because Viz uploads get
Viz forces you to flip your phone on the side. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, well, because I don't really do that, but what'll happen is I'll read a page, and I'll not realize that it's part of a 2-page spread.
Yeah.
So I'll be a little confused, and I'll go to the next page, it's like, oh, that's why I'm confused. I haven't finished the first fucking panel yet.
Exactly, because sometimes it goes across the top, and you don't realize there's stuff at the top. That's why, because like, so if you flip your phone on the side, it shows it as a spread. I hated that I had to start doing this.
It's so small.
I hated that I had to start doing this on Viz. I just would immediately, every 2 pages, flip it on the side and make sure it wasn't a spread, and then if it was, I would keep it flipped and just omega zoom in on shit. Because like,
it sucks so much.
It sucks. I don't know why they do it. Like, I understand that it's really cool and great. Listen, it is phenomenal. Like, the Viz app is so fucking pristine on a tablet, because it just knows that, like, on a tablet, it displays big enough, you get page on each side. Yeah. So it just does 1 page on each half, which is the fact that Viz preserves. I do think Viz should be commended for preserving what is the right and left side of the page and preserving that page turning experience.
Thank you. They're the only fucking digital service that I know of to actually give you 2 pages, and MangaDex will do it, but it's always fucked up because they don't actually like have a human being making sure it actually is showing you the 2 pages that are supposed to be shown.
And that's something that Viz does.
My favorite way to do digitally is downloading and doing on Honeyview or something like that.
Because Honeyview's Smart View will automatically do it for you. Yes. And Viz does it
maybe I'll
as
have to
well.
adjust the
It's
page,
so good.
But but that's the worst I have to do, right? Is adjusted a page because it got desynced because the translators weren't accounting for that. And that's also something I want to bitch about in the video, because it's like, we're ruining manga.
I love that you and me are sitting here complaining about these very small minutia of manga reading experiences that just come from us being so versed in manga that like 99% of people will not notice or care about these things, and you and me are both like mentioning it, and I'm like, this is the one thing Viz does well. And you're like, yes, you're the only person that mentions that Viz cares about this. But like, they do, and it's crazy because like it matters so much. And it's the one thing that Viz gets, is that like, what is on the page turn matters, right? There is a difference between, and there is an art in when you are drawing a manga, what you put on the right page and the left page, and what you put on the next right page, right? You always want to end that final left page panel on something forcing you to turn the page. And that's not something you get when you look at one page at a time, and it's not something you get unless both pages in the correct order are preserved. And I think Viz does deserve a lot of praise for doing that. But the mobile, like, phone reading experience sucks ass.
Yeah, and obviously Tachiyomi isn't Viz. It's an extra site that I noticed it with the Viz one specifically because of how they do it, and it's really unfortunate. I thought I was gonna say something else, but I think I forgot what it was.
Crap.
But yeah, people just don't think about manga or care about manga as much. Like, I fucking remember hearing the most head-ass take of just like, manga is just a blueprint for a good anime, and it's like,
no, it's not. Yeah.
No, like, even if because there's adaptations I like better, right? But it's like, I just watched the first episode of Pluto, and I don't know if I automatically say I like it better because Naoki Arasong is so fucking good at manga, dude. Like,
dude, let me find a Shapes tweet he made about Pluto that was bonkers.
Oh, was he talking about I saw the one he was talking about the staff.
Yes!
Because there was literally
people like, one of the directors been working on anime since 1966? Hello?
Well, not only that, he also worked on Astro Boy and Blackjack.
No, yeah.
Which is like Astro Boy, obviously adapting Pluto is adapting Astro Boy, but also this episode has a Blackjack cameo in it that Naoki Urasawa added, and he referenced Blackjack. And,
that's cool.
Was preserved in, so, and
I just thought it was.
But no, like,
that made me more interested in the Pluto anime than anything else, because, like, if your episode director is a guy who worked on fucking Astro Boy, on Astro Boy, I refuse. It's something that, like, I think about. I swear to God, I think about this moment because Tim Rogers is my goat, and I love his videos. I think about this moment he talks about in his Boku no Natsu Yasumi video, maybe like every 2 days, where he's talking about working at PlayStation in the 2000s, and he talks about how there were guys he met there that had been working for the PlayStation brand since before it came out. So he uses like the phrase they were like 13-year veterans of a 12-year brand, right? And that's so cool to think about. And that is immediately like, that makes me think about is like the people working behind the scenes, not even the people making stuff, right? Just like some guy working for Sony who probably worked for 40 years for Sony, and like, you know, he even mentions these were people who started out in like the music department, so they had careers at Sony in the music department, and some of them just switched over to video games because they thought they were cool and thought it would be like an interesting change in their careers, right?
Or just like, man, I'm not going anywhere in this thing. I'm gonna move over,
got moved
like,
or whatever, right? Yeah. And so like it's so interesting to think about that and think that like, you know, these people working on it from the beginning are definitely the most passionate people about it. You know what I mean? Like, those people probably working in that Sony building, outside of the ones that hated their lives and hated their job, but the ones who actually cared about what they were working on and were passionate about it, probably are the biggest Sony fanboys. Like, the people who, like, are posting shit on Twitter threads where they're, like, making fucking the PlayStation, the Xbox fanboy who, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. You probably didn't. But there was some Xbox fanboy who posted, like, an ass comparison of Mary Jane's ass in Spider-Man 2 to like, a Starfield character's ass. It was like, Sony sucks. But then it came out that it was a modded Starfield screenshot. It's just like, brother. Which is, it's already the most ridiculous thing to bring up as a comparison between two wildly different games to say Xbox is better, right? Like, already, like, you need God. Like, you need help, right? But then to like
Yeah,
it be modded is just so. But like people care so much.
I mean,
like if you're a guy who works, sorry to bring it all the way back around. If you're someone who worked on Astro Boy, when it came out, you probably care way more about that shit and like have way more ideas and thoughts about how it should be done than like maybe anyone else working in the anime. You know what I mean? Like that makes me genuinely so interested in the show and like what it's doing and how much the people working on it give a shit.
Yeah, and I will say, so just on the first episode, because I'm not sure if it's fully like a panel to screen adaptation, but it's a fucking good one if it is. Like,
yeah,
because there's a lot of it. It's like, yeah, this is not Kurosawa. Like, this is just beat for beat, like volume 1, pretty much. Because there's 8 episodes and each one's an hour long, so it's literally like volume per volume. I don't know if it's gonna be straight volume for volume adaptation, but it's like. Dude, the fucking, you've read Pluto, right?
No, I think it's the only Kurosawa I haven't read.
Ooh,
but it's because I haven't read Astro Boy, and I want to read Astro Boy first, and I also want to reread all of like his other shit. Because I need to decide if I need to re-see if 20th Century Boys is the GOAT or it's Monster, and then I need to decide if and I guess Pluto could be the GOAT. I guess that's fair. I think
Pluto's my favorite personally. But it's not that Monster and 20th Century Boys aren't
right
because they're also fucking they're all 9 out of 10.
Well, yeah, and then I have to decide if Billy Bat really is the most insane dog shit thing I've ever read in my life. You know, because like I know that when I say that Hitler created Mickey Mouse to cause 9/11,
it's so funny,
that is objectively a true thing that happens in that series.
I'm pretty sure at least half of it. It might not be like there might be other points in between there, but it's still.
No, there are other points in between there, but that is like an A, G, and Z that happened in that fucking manga.
Yeah,
you know.
And
it's like so bonkers, but like that's so silly, and I want to say I love it, but it's also too bonkers. And maybe I would feel differently rereading it because like I think what it really like is at the end of the day is I wasn't as used to Urasawa's favorite thing, which is to get rid of his first main character halfway through and give you another one.
Yep.
And because Billy Bat was my first Urasawa manga, I think I was not as kind.
Oh, what was your first one?
I was not as charitable to the second Kevin as I would be now. You know what I mean? Because like at first when the second Kevin showed up, I was like, where the fuck is... Because he shows up right after Kevin Yamagata or whatever has that great moment where he's like at that house in Japan and he's drawing. And it's like, I'm a fucking artist. I'm drawing this fucking comic because that's what I was meant to fucking do. And you're like, yes, go. You do it. And then like 2 chapters later, he like comes to a revelation and it's like, okay, now you're in the future in New York with this other guy. And like immediately I'm like, fuck this guy. Like, where's my Kevin? And then you only see him like at the end of the series again, and it's over, right? And I think I just wasn't as like kind to that second half because I wasn't as used to or ready. And like obviously in 20th Century Boys, I think it's done a lot better, just because like the character that you're following has an immediate tie. They have an immediate tie to everything you've been going, and the first main character shows back up again and is important enough to the rest of the story that you don't feel cheapened by spending a lot of time without him, right? Because like he still has that moment where he shows up like at the base with the guitar and like makes that whole big scene.
He's Ibuki fucking Joe.
Yeah, and it's like one of the best moments in that fucking manga, right? And so like he still has more in the story to play versus like when the first Kevin and Billy Bat's done, he's like pretty much done until he shows up as an old stage like at the end of the series and tells you Billy Bat's on the moon or some fucking shit like that, right?
Honestly, I thought he was dead.
No. He shows back up. So he goes.
It's been look.
No.
So my thing with my thing with Billy Bat is that like
you read it weekly, right?
And for 5 years, and then I finished, and I was like, I need to reread it. What was the point of me reading in the first place if I'm just going to reread it when it's over? And now I feel differently about that. But at the time, you know. So I never reread it.
Dude, I love Sonic Camp. What a cool monster.
Yeah.
No, like I agree. Well, so he shows back up. They go to like that village, and I feel like it's in the Middle East. Oh, Freddy's just got a fucking dick on his back. I love Monster Hunter. I was thinking that while I was playing right now because like a part of it for me, like one of my favorite things about Monster Hunter is just like how many of these stupid monsters, dumbass fucking names live rent free in my brain. Like, they're tucked away the same place like song lyrics are, where I couldn't sing a song unless it starts playing, right? I couldn't probably name all the monsters. It's the same place as Pokemon, too. I couldn't name them all right off the top of my head. But, like, Somnicanth rolls up, and I see that motherfucker, and, like, the name just comes out of me, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, like, so much of my brain is taken up by these stupid fucking silly little monsters. And I genuinely play in this game because, like, look, I thought this game looked good. And, like, I played World, and obviously World looks better, but, like,
Yeah.
after playing, like, genuine, like, current gen, like, you know, this year games, I am so fucking excited for World 2. And, like, to see, because, like, Capcom's visuals right now on the RE engine goes so crazy. And, like, the first RE engine game, I'm pretty sure, oh, no, it was RE7, actually, I think, before World. But, like, World was like, their big RE engine game, and I'm convinced if it's not going to be, because they announced today that they're updating the RE engine, they're doing, like, the second version, it's going to be the REX engine. I assume
Which
it's
means,
World 2.
okay.
If it's not World 2, it's probably Resident Evil 9, but I assume it's
It
World
makes
2.
sense it'd be World 2 because wait, was World what was the first game that used the RE engine?
Either
Was it
World or Resident Evil 7. I think it was Resident Evil 7
Okay.
and then World.
I
But
feel
World
like,
was
yeah,
one of the
that-
first
that-
ones,
that-
yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense because obviously World was this big like moment for Capcom where it's like, oh shit, we have money now. We can do all these other cool things. That
Yeah,
we've
we can
been wanting
fund
to do.
everything we want to do. We can give you all the Mega Man games, even though we don't need to make a new one. Yeah, like they're able to like do what they want now. And like I don't know if you saw, I sent it to someone today. So they announced, or I saw something today that was the most recent of their best-selling series. Let me find it. Hold on. Oh my god.
Yeah, I guess it's I remember even the case for just Street Fighter 6 being really popular, also raising the popularity of other fighting games, and then the phrasing someone used was like, you know, high tides raise all boats, basically.
Raising tide raises all
Monster did
ships.
for
Yeah.
Yeah, Monster Hunter did for Capcom, right? Of just
Okay,
World
so-
being sick, you know.
So
successful,
just to let you like see this, Monster Hunter is passing Resident Evil soon. Like because Monster Hunter games actually I feel like individually sell better than Resident Evil games. Resident Evil just releases more games.
yeah.
But okay.
Right. Well, it has more games
Monster
over
Hunter
a
games since
longer
World,
period
I
of
should say.
time, too.
Monster Hunter games since World, because
yeah.
like you know, whatever. So Capcom's top 5 best-selling game series in the millions. The first is Resident Evil at 150 million. The second is Monster Hunter at 95 million. I feel like they catch up in 2 games. Like it's not one game. I don't think World 2 is gonna be a 50 million unit seller. That's bonkers.
Probably not. No.
But I think their next 2 they could. The problem is I guess RE will keep releasing games. But like the fact that Monster Hunter climbed to second with only 2 games hitting mainstream appeal. Because again, keep going. Street Fighter is 3 at 52 million. Mega Man is 4 at 41 million. And then Devil May Cry is their 5th, which it already surprised me that it's 5th. And then also I think 30 million is surprising for that series. Actually, having shipped 30 million
numbers,
feels
because
crazy.
obviously Monster Hunter is also a long-running franchise. It's over 20 years old, and it's been really popular in Japan basically since then. But obviously, World did numbers, right? And that led to Rise also doing numbers. So
Okay, well, so World sales. Okay, I just pulled it up. So if you look, oh my god, I didn't realize that. Okay. Okay, Monster Hunter's gonna pass it in a couple games. So I'm looking at it right now. Okay, I just pulled up Capcom's investor relations, and it pulls up their best-selling games of all time. Okay, number 1, Monster Hunter World, 19 million units. Okay, number 2, Monster Hunter Rise, 13.2 million units. Then is RE7 at 12, or no, RE2 at 12.6, RE7 at 12.4, Iceborne at 10.5, Resident Evil 5 at 8.8, Resident Evil 6 at 8.8, Resident Evil Village at 8.3, Resident Evil 3 Remake at 7.6, Street Fighter 5 at 7.3, and that's their top 10. I think it is insanely telling that the 2 real Monster Hunter games that have come out since World, right? So World and Rise are their top 2, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that trend will probably continue moving forward, where I think Monster Hunter games will probably continue to just actually be their best sellers. And then obviously the difference is, you know, there's been technically 3 Monster Hunter games on this list since that came out. And if you look, okay, January 2018, there have been just a bunch of Resident Evil games that have come out since then. You know what I mean? So it's just like not fair yet. And also Resident Evil's had more time in the mainstream, right? Like Resident Evil's been mainstream since realistically the first game came out in 1995 or whatever. And Monster Hunter has been a mainstream game franchise since World. So
yeah, 20 years later, right?
Yeah, I think Monster Hunter will very quickly be. I can do 2 more hunts, by the way. So if you want to pick one, and then I'll pick one, and then we'll call it.
I'm using the bathroom real quick.
You're good. Yeah. Holy shit! I didn't realize DMC5 had so many fucking copies. Oh wow! See, okay, so I'm scrolling through it. And Monster Hunter's on this list farther down. I mean, the only things is there's the only non-Resident Evil series in between Monster Hunter games is DMC5, Street Fighter 5 and 2, and then Resident Evil games. And then it's fucking Freedom 3 at 5 million, Generations Ultimate at 4.6, Generations at 4.3, 4 Ultimate at 4.2, 4 at 4.1. Street Fighter 2 again, Resident Evil 1, 0, Freedom Unite, Nemesis, Street Fighter 4. Interesting. Damn, Street Fighter 5's fucking about to start climbing, huh?
Should have muted. Oh well.
You're fine. Street Fighter 5 hit 2.45, so that puts it right now. What the? Oh wait, that's just because it's the 18th edition. That puts it right above DMC 4 Special Edition. That's crazy. Puts it with Resident Evil Revelations. What the hell? That's crazy. More people have bought Operation Raccoon City than Resident Evil 5 or Street Fighter 6. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? That's unreal. Gamers, let's fucking step it up. Need more people to start buying Street Fighter. Thank you. Also, did you see Japan sales, like game sales last week? I assume you probably didn't. So,
well, yeah. What was of note specific?
Okay, so to give
well,
another number really quickly, after the first 24 hours, so after just the first day, after just Friday of it being out, Insomniac reported that Spider-Man sold like 2.5 million or something, right? In just the first 24 hours, like biggest PlayStation launch in history, right? By far. Mario Wonder, okay. In Japan for physical sales,
yes,
Spider-Man was 77,000 or something like that, like 70,000. Okay, so like that was that drop in the bucket for Spider-Man's, worldwide 2 point whatever million. In Japan, Mario Wonder was like 600 something thousand.
Yeah, I saw
like
that. Yeah,
10 times the number, which is fucking bonkers. That like their big, like PlayStation's biggest game of the year. Probably the biggest game, second biggest game release of the year after Hogwarts, technically, since Hogwarts is multi-plat, so it was able to be sold more. Spider-Man's one of the biggest releases of the year, and it's just funny seeing in Japan how dwarfed it was by Mario, Jumpman Mario.
Yeah, they like, I think the tweet that you probably retweeted was like, yeah, so it was okay for a Sony release in Japan, where Mario is like, oh, yeah, best-selling Switch Mario. So
well, I saw people being so dumb. Like I saw one, I don't know, like because like obviously the biggest reason for the difference, and like the biggest thing that Mario Wonder has going for it, right, is that it's at the end of the Switch lineup, and like I saw people saying this like, oh, it's surprising that Mario Wonder sold this well at the end of the Switch's lineup. It's like, are you fucking stupid? Does your brain not work? Like, of course it sold well at the end of the fucking Switch's lineup. The console has a higher install base, right? And then, like, I don't know. To just blast without even naming it. This one guy on Twitter. I almost replied to this guy. I don't even know who he is. I just, like, saw him in the replies of this tweet, and it was, like, pissing me off just reading him. Because he was, like, someone responded, was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's later on. It's, like, farther in the install base. He's like, well, at the end of the 3DS's lifespan, people didn't buy Bowser's Inside Story. Hello? First of
Yeah.
all, by the time Bowser's Inside
Wait.
Story came out,
A
the
remake?
Switch was already on shelves. So it wasn't
and
the
that's-
end of the
that's the fucking
3DS's
remake,
lifespan.
right?
It was
'Cause,
after
yeah,
the
the-
3DS's fucking funeral. And then, yeah, it's a remake of a
Of
fucking
a DS
RPG.
game. Yeah. Yeah, that's not in the same like ballpark. Mario RPG.
After
like,
the
good
Switch was out. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? This is like the Switch's final hurrah. You know what I mean? Like one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Like, and it's final big game. Like its final big first-party game that is of a character that had a theatrical movie that broke box office records come out this year. Of course, this was the highest-selling Mario game. Like, what are we talking about? But it's like I just see people have these like dumbass takes every day.
So someone did
It's like,
specify it's
brother.
not the highest selling because some of the other titles sold better, like the new Super Mario Brothers on the DS or something. But it's like, you know, again, it's a matter of time and place. So, and that's I don't know. They might also be looking at different periods because I don't even think the game's been out a week.
Well, to be fair, also it's that, you know, like there's a couple things to think about, right? Like one of them is that like New Super Mario Bros. DS would have been cheaper than like astronomically cheaper. Right, because first of all, it would have been far longer time ago, so... Or I guess, no, the money is worth less now, but, you know, it would have been like a $30 game versus like a $60, $70 game for Mario. And then, you know, the other thing is, like, the DS is, like, one of the best-selling video game pieces of technology of all fucking time. Like, that bitch is crazy selling. People care less about 2D games, and then, like, the other fact is, like, just, like, especially for global sales, like, brother, Spider-Man came out the same fucking day!
No,
So,
yeah,
like,
I think,
sure, for Japan, more people care about Mario.
But... really suffered from Mario being released, possibly, than just that, like.
Yeah, well, like I think
it was competing with as a 2D platformer. It was competing, maybe. So.
Yeah, no, that definitely is true as well. Sonic also Omega. I can't believe that like games. I mean, the problem with like changing release dates of games in this year through early next year is that it's I mean, to be fair, the game's calmed down now that Alan Wake's out. I think the only release I kind of care about the rest of this year, if it even gets announced to come out, which it's that they said this year, but we haven't heard anything in a while, is Space Marine 2, the Warhammer game. But yeah, like this year's been so stacked. It's like where do you move to? But also like Mario and Spider-Man come out the same day. Of course, like. I don't think Mario is hurt by that, or Spider-Man is not hurt by that as much as Mario is, I think, because I think most people will probably take the perspective that, like, I can fucking wait on Mario, that's fine. I want to play...
Going on that you don't want to be
well, it's not even story. I mean, it's partially story stuff, but, like, I think part of it for me, I mean, also, I expect I will probably have more fun with Spider-Man. Spider-Man will take me more time, right? Like, you know, even though I finished that game and have the platinum already, it's like 30 hours, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna put 30 hours of Mario under. I'm sorry. That game would have to, like, blow me for me to spend 30 hours.
As far as, like, hours per cost.
Yeah, and I think it's also, like, Spider-Man 2, like, you know, was a bigger game release, which I think anyone could have predicted. It's more of a cultural moment, you know? And, like, as much as I, you know, pretend like and say, like, for the most part, I don't care what people think. I do like being somewhat part of, you know, big cultural moments for... like pop culture in my generation. I feel it's important. It's part of the experience, you know. So like, like I was always gonna pick Spider-Man, and I think most people were always gonna pick Spider-Man in like America. You know, of people who had both, who had the option of both. You know, which is fair. And then like, you know, I'd probably pick other games over Mario too. But like, brother, I would much rather play Metal Gear than Mario. Hello. Like gay old men versus Italian plumber with a new voice actor. Sorry.
But he's an elephant.
Yeah, but have you heard David Hayter talk as Solid Snake? It's fucking one of the best, just most soothing.
Apparently the Switch, apparently the new collection has some issues, so I'm glad that I have the PS3 one sitting on my shelf right now.
So here's what I'll say. Well, so the biggest issue people have with the new collection is actually just that it is the PS3 collection. Outside of Metal Gear Solid 1, which, okay, I've seen a bunch of people talk about it. It is the whiniest bullshit I've ever heard for a collection.
Okay.
Because, like, okay, to be, like, they said from the start, right? They're like, yeah, we are just fucking, we're making the games as you can play them. And they do something fucking sick as fuck for Metal Gear Solid 1 that, like, I don't care. It's just awesome. Which is you can add save files when you go to, right before you start the game, for different Konami games that, like, Psycho Mantis will read. So, like, when I was doing it, I actually went into, like, the add game files, and I was looking through, and I actually, like, made some choices. I, like, tried to play it, like, as I was, like, if I was like, me, with my current taste right now, right, we're in, whatever, 90, whatever, that Metal Gear Solid came out. Which of these Konami games would I have reasonably probably bought, you know, and, like, played to add to the thing? And, like, the only ones I picked were, like, I was like, Symphony of the Night, obviously, which I had to pick because I already have Symphony of the Night on my PS5. So it's like, well, this game's literally installed on my console. I should probably fucking add a save file for it. And then I added, like, Suikoden and, like, something else, like some other RPG. But, like, it's cool that it lets you pick, like add those save files. And then the other games are just the HD collections, but I saw a couple instances, at least in Metal Gear Solid 3, where they fixed a cutscene. They fixed, like, the end cutscene where it, like, looks better. And, like, it actually has, like, the black bar and doesn't have some, like, overexposed issues that for some reason the PS3 and 360 versions have. The other thing, so that's, like, most of it. The problem that people have with the, I skipped the MSX games. The MSX games are a game that I will replay if I feel like it down the line. I am not going to let them stop me from playing the other games. All right, like, Metal Gear Solid 1 is already old and janky enough at times, while still being really cool and really fun. I am not dealing with an MSX games jank. You can blow me. But, like,
I am. Eventually.
Nope, I don't care. I'm not him.
I don't think you're wrong.
So to go over the problems that a lot of people have with the other games. So I think Metal Gear Solid 1 for everything is locked at 30 FPS because that's just, like, what the game runs at.
Yeah.
But the other two games run at 10. So first of all, people are upset there's no 4K support because, I mean, obviously most modern computers could run that at 4K, and, like, obviously the PS5 and Series X could run it at 4K. So there's, like, really no reason for it other than the fact that they just ported over the 360 versions. And apparently, like, it's so obvious they ported over the HD versions. They're just the title screens from the HD versions, and, like, even have the copyright from the HD version. Like, the copyright says, like, 2011 apparently. I haven't gotten to 2 and 3 yet, so I don't know. I picked it up today, and I'm at the end of 1, actually. I'm, like, 2/3 of the way through 1.
I didn't know it was that short. Okay. Or maybe
it's not that it's super short. It's that, like, I played the first half of the game earlier this year. Because I own the PC version of 1 and 2, the GOG version, but there's some issues with those and whatever. And I had played through Psycho Mantis on that version, and so doing it again today, it was like a couple months ago. It was clean enough in my brain that I knew where I was going and what I was doing. I was thinking Metal Gear Solid 1 is a lot more about just, like, knowing where to go and how to do it. Because there's so much esoteric shit in that game. Like, there's, like, a moment where you're, like, trapped in a, like, after the torture sequence, you're trapped in a fucking room. And it's like, oh, yeah, you have to lay on the floor when the guard is out of the room and use ketchup so that Snake drops the ketchup on the floor and makes it look like it's blood so that the guard thinks you're dead and comes sprinting in thinking you're dead, right? And so it's a mix between there's esoteric shit like that, and also because it's a PS1 game, like, they hear footsteps if you walk through things that hear your footsteps. Like, because the game couldn't be guaranteed that you would have a earshot, there's not, like, running speed. Like, you don't have to, like, slowly walk to not be heard. You run at, like, Snake's fucking sprinting speed around. It's just, like, you can't, like, walk through a puddle or they'll hear that. I don't know why I said hear that way.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, like,
work,
there's also no, like, stealth takedown. You can't walk up from behind someone and, like, choke them out. Like, I know you can. I don't know. Honestly, I forgot what hunt we were doing. I just started fighting shit. That's what happens.
Noticed, like,
you love to talk about, like, we can just fight monster and not do anything. If I do that, I will, at at some point end up fighting a random monster because I forget what I'm fighting and it just something else will be on my screen and I just start hitting him. I don't care. I'm having a good time.
When you mounted the Rakna and then you were doing a bunch of damage to the Anjanath, I was like, great, that's not the monster hunting though. And then Rakna ran away and I chased it. I'm fighting it. I'm like, where's Vindy?
Dude, I was fighting.
You're gaming, brother. Anyway, so yes, fucking silly stealth mechanics.
Yeah, well, so like you know, you're not fighting people. Like you're not taking. It's not a stealth game where like you're spending a lot of time taking someone out and like hiding their body, which I think happens in the later Metal Gear games where you can actually like do more interesting things with it. Because I know that like by 5 you definitely do, and I think that it's just like at every game he tried to like up what you could do in a stealth game. And like don't get me wrong, like, constantly I am shocked by what you can do in Metal Gear Solid, and like for a game of the time, like how insane that game is. So I don't think it's like a mark against the game how simple it is, but it's just like when you're moving through the area, you are moving through the area, not trying to fight everyone, just like literally running past people. So if you know where to go, it shortens down the game time quite a bit, especially like the early game. And like the other thing is like I played the game so cool like recently that like I know the story and cutscenes, so I definitely also did skip some of the early cutscenes because like I fucking know what's going on, and some of those Kojima cutscenes are long as fuck. But I mean the game's not too like I think the how long to beat is like 11 hours for the story. I think you could probably do the story and like I'd imagine probably it's like a 7-8 hour story if you know what you're doing and just move through it with some urgency. But I don't know, it's a cool game. I'm really excited to play 2 and 3 though, because those seem like real video games that will be very interesting and cool.
Yeah, no, I'm still interested in the franchise, so
it's just like I don't know, man. Like the MSX games are like there and they're part of the collection. I have it, and I'm sure I'll probably play them at some point. But
at least try them maybe just to see, because
my thought was like
surprised.
I'm not gonna force myself to. Yeah. I feel like there's something where first of all, it's not like the Metal Gear timeline is in order already. All right, so it's not like I'm too like I feel too forced to play them in any order. Like at a certain point, if I wanted to, I might as well just do them in timeline order. You know, I might just play fucking 3, 5.
Well, especially
the MSX games. I've played the series a long time ago. You know how we were talking about like I feel like everything I played before. There's like everything I played before like I quit CS is like a different me. That was when I played Metal Gear. Was in middle school. So like it's not the same.
Gotcha.
But like
I mean, so you do have some experience with it, so it's not
like
but you're blind,
so much
right?
of like the and also but so much of like the war shit and like the actual like themes were definitely just going over my head because I just wasn't an adult enough. My brain wasn't fully formed enough where I was actually able to like care about like at the end of the day, like, you know, a nuke to kid me was like, oh, it was what ended World War II, and it's that mission from Call of Duty, and it's what I get when I go on a big enough kill streak. You know what I mean? And so, like, a series about nuclear war and shit like
Japan,
that.
mind,
Yeah, like it definitely was.
You're gonna think about that a little bit.
Okay, well, to be fair, I do not care what from Japan. Kojima is the world's biggest Westaboo. All right, he is bringing a Western perspective to that shit, no matter what. I do not care. Not a Western perspective, but.
Like I remember someone making the comparison, like just compare Godzilla to Hulk, right? Where it's like Godzilla is this fucking like animal that's been hurt by radioactive waste, and Hulk's like a superhero who gets power from radioactivity. Or Spider-Man even, right? Like it's like they're just treated differently culturally, right?
Right.
So that's more just what I was, so even if Kojima's the Westaboo, it's like I imagine.
Yeah, that's something that's so interesting to me about Metal Gear is like even though it was and part of it is totally the way the game was written and seemed to be written, and the game just would not work with how many cutscenes are in it if they didn't get banger voice actors for it, and I think they realized that. I think Konami probably put in the money at the time to really kill it with the voice acting. But like he wrote that like it is written like a Western blockbuster. You know what I mean? It's not written like an anime or manga. It's written like a Hollywood blockbuster, and like it kind of plays out like that and feels like that. So, and I think it's probably why like there is a lot of silliness and there is a lot of stuff that you wouldn't get in like a normal Western made thing. So like it is clear that it it does come from a different culture. But
from the outside, it definitely feels like an example of like serious humor at times, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or something, where it's like the characters are serious, but also what's happening, there's a level of silliness to it, where it's like
sometimes it's just
sometimes.
goofy.
Okay.
It all just depends on the series and the time and the, like something like the, and also sometimes it's just goofy by like proxy, but like shit like the Ape Escape missions, just goof, like the Ape Escape mission in 3, just goofy, or like the 2 like skateboarding mini game, like it's just goofy bullshit.
I know in one of the PSP ones you can actually fight Rathalos and Tigrex.
Yeah, it's I think
so
Peace Walker.
Cool. Yeah. But I was also thinking of like, I mean, my frame of reference for Metal Gear is Rising, and like that, which has like a very serious war narrative, but also like Raiden will get drop kicked by Armstrong, scrape his chin on the ground, and it'll be like really war, and it'll be like visibly red from the heat, and like obviously it doesn't get called attention to or anything, but it's just like a little, almost like a gag, like a visual gag, right? Like
that's
like
a very that's very Metal Gear, right? Like and it's great, but it's just funny seeing it because like I can totally see how at the time it was accepted, and like Metal Gear was loved the same way that people love a lot of more like Western AAA franchises, just because of how much of a fucking Westaboo Kojima is. It like bleeds through. Like it's really interesting, right? That like something that did that well is essentially like it's a Japanese made series, but like the creator is someone who is taking clear inspiration from
Western film,
media,
right?
Right, so that like it kind of bridges the gap and is palatable by both. I think it's just really interesting, and I want to see that happen more as I play more of the games, and like playing it. Sorry, I was already charging. I couldn't do anything. And like playing it is making me want to play like other Kojima games. Like I own Death Stranding, and I need to.
I'm really interested. I'm honestly actually thinking about it. I might be more interested in Death Stranding than I am in Metal Gear.
I have such a hard time conceptualizing that game now because it came out. Yes, because it came out before COVID. And I feel like the entire game, like, is going to hit so differently after 2020 that I think it's going to be really, really hard. Because, like, it is about a desolate world where, like, delivery people are the thing holding humanity together.
Connecting people together.
Connecting people through these routes. You know what I mean? Like, I could not play that game and not think of COVID in 2020. And I think it's going to be really hard to play that game. And like, not that this is something I have to, because I think it will be interesting, and if I ever do anything on Death Stranding, because it would totally come from a perspective of after COVID, having played it, but it's gonna be so hard for me to rationalize both, like, I am playing this as a person post this like massive world event, and this was created 4 months before that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fucking
like, it's
Kojima caused COVID.
It's just so crazy, and it's gonna make that game hit so hard. But also, it's just something, man. I don't know. It makes that game really hard for me to actually like even mentally tackle the thought of playing it.
Yeah.
So the thought of trying to unravel it all and like make sense of the experience. You know what I mean? Like, it's very just it's weird. It's cool, but it's definitely weird. I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, I see it. Like, Kojima's a guy, and he's a guy that he's one of those guys. I think
you can go and pick the last quest.
Well, I'm gonna load screen, but. He's very talented. I think he's one of those people, and it's interesting that I think, because I had a friend I was talking to recently and was saying, like, he feels like you hear a lot more about like the Japanese directors, like game directors, and not as much about like the English ones. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I think there are a lot more Japanese ones, but I think some of the American ones, like, you either don't hear about them because like people talk more about like the studio, or it's just that like they're like indie devs, like, it's a lot easier. It sounds like to get like a Western or like a Japanese like whole like studio to be like, okay, we're behind Miyazaki, or we're behind Kojima, you know, on this.
Or Nomura or whoever,
Nomura,
right? Like
or like these figureheads are way more prominent, and then it's like you think of like singular Western game devs, and it's like you go to like Toby Fox, right? Is like honestly,
I couldn't tell
for
you
me, he's the biggest one.
Last of Us is, right?
Oh,
like,
I can. It's Neil Druckmann. But
okay, there you go. Yeah. So, but that's But I also haven't played it.
But I know him because he did Last of Us 1 and 2 and was huge on the TV show, and he's one of the ones I feel like is he's one of the, like, it's funny you said Last of Us. That's one of the few that I feel like the creator is like a name. You know, it's like him. And like the only other big AAA ones are like
games from the last decade too, right?
Yeah,
like just,
it is like
it feels
him.
So phenomenal even from the outside.
And then I go to like you go to like John Romero and John Carmack, and then I feel like there's like Cliffy B, which is also, you know, 2 decades ago at this point. Randy Pitchford, which I don't know the last time he made a game people cared about, a decade ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like you think of there's like Toby Fox and like the guy who made like One Shot, and there's, you know, some other people. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. But I feel like Kojima's a guy, and he's a guy that he's really wacky, you know, like his brain doesn't work the same way that a lot of other people do for telling stories. And
yeah, I'm definitely interested in like the story. Like that's a big thing. Like, because part of why like Metal Gear Rising was interesting to me is because it was part of this bigger world and bigger conflict. And even though like I think I was able to like get a lot, you know, a fair amount of just from that one game. And I'm sure there's lots of stuff that, like, I feel like the cyborg stuff especially is very much unique to that game. I feel like, where the X-Way was exploring it. Like, I'm not that it's not that like right into Cyborg in 4 as well, but I don't know like how much the conflict really revolved around that compared to Rising relative before. Like, I feel like that's more comparatively minor, right? But like, I'm sure at least like just the fact that it's dealing in war and stuff, like, and I did like the ideas of the game and what it was doing, but and it made me interested in going to Metal Gear, but especially the way I feel like people do respect the story of that game, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they understand it as well, and like, but I don't know. It's also a popular game franchise, and people are stupid.
Well, so okay, first of all, you have to respect the story in Metal Gear Solid, because not only I think can you not finish. Okay. Not only do I think you can't finish that game if you aren't paying attention, because, like, for example, and, like, this is something if you play it on a modern version, you just have to fucking look up a guide for it. There's a moment in the game where you have to find a character's codec information. Do you want to know where, for people playing the game in 1995 or 7 or whatever the fuck, that codec information was?
Okay, where?
On the back of the DVD case, on the back of the jewel case.
Oh, I heard about that.
Because you hear that, like, you've met the character, you know you need to talk to them, and on the back of the jewel case, one of the pictures of the game is Snake talking to that character on the codec, and so you can see their codec number on that. That's how you're supposed to do it. That's not even one of the coolest examples I can think of, but Death Stranding does it as well, and it's why I'm so excited to play Death Stranding on the PS5 with like the adaptive triggers, because I think it's actually going to go bonkers for that game. But Kojima is so, even like for like Metal Gear Solid, like, and it makes me want to play Snatcher, it makes me want to fucking play Police Knots. He is so innovative and good at trying to come up with really interesting ways to use all the facets of the controller and the console and the hardware to tell his story.
Like, that's some of what I've really heard about Metal Gear Solid before. I you know, like Psycho Mantis, right, where it's like you have to beat him by changing your controller port, right? Where
and before you even do that, he reads the memory card and has voice lines based on games you play. And another thing he does that, like, it didn't surprise me now, but I could have imagined in 1995 it being the coolest thing I had ever fucking seen in a video game. There's a moment where he's like, I'm going to make your controller move. Watch this. Set your controller down on a flat surface in front of you. Or he says on the floor, which immediately made me think, like, fucking Japanese gamers sit on the floor to play instead of, like, a table, right? But, like, you set your controller down, and he, like, vibrates the controller and makes it move across the floor, you know? Like, there's so many small things like that where it's clear that, like, he's thinking, like, how can I use the technology to tell the story?
Right,
another really fun way is there's, like, a torture scene, and you have to mash the fuck out of circle, right? You gotta mash that bitch,
Uh-huh.
and then you get like a little reprieve, and you gotta mash it again. And like the true ending is
It's
entirely
actual
the good
torture.
ending is entirely dependent on you getting through the like the 2 torture sequences you have to do. Fine, and if you fuck it up, you get like the game over and you get a bad end. So like, yeah, you are like, my arm fucking hurt by the end of it. I was like, I need a second. Like, I need to pause this game before I play anymore, because my like wrist is hurting from mashing this hard. So like, he's even thinking like, how can I like I was in this torture. I have never before in a torture scene in my life been doing it and been like, oh my god, is this fucking, can this please end? And like it ending, and I was like, whew. And like Revolver Ocelot's like, I'm gonna put you back in the torture. I'm like, hold on, I need a second. I'm like taking a deep breath. I'm like shaking my hand to get ready. Like somehow he was able to, in 1995, give the player like some kind of way where he's like breaking down, like, you know, as much as I hate the term because I think it's like used in dumb ways a lot of the time, like he's breaking down like that ludonarrative dissonance where you see a character get tortured and aren't feeling anything, and he is drawing you into the story and into that torture. And so when you have a story that like does have some really interesting thoughts and ideas like Metal Gear Solid 1's, but like ultimately, you know, doesn't do as much, I want to see what he does when, you know, you get more into it, you get more, you know, involved stories, and he's doing more and trying to say more and tell more, you know what I mean? Because he does such a good job at like really thinking about like, what is the technology I have in play and how can I use that, all of it, to enhance the story, as opposed to just like, how do I make a video game that has cutscenes but don't amount to a story, you know? And it's really engaging. Playing it because of that. I think it's really like it's just impressive, like genuine.
Yeah. No, I think, well, because like, as you know, yeah, just think about like, because video games are a relatively new medium, and like, because going back to the manga discussion, that there, I linked a blog post in there that was a Twitter thread that, and I even mentioned how like, when it comes to like the rules of reading manga, the ones I've seen that don't follow those rules are older manga, because it was more of a Wild West, right? These authors were figuring out how to use the medium, right, and how to, you know, and so here you're talking about, you know, Kojima doing things with games that like even nowadays aren't really like common, right?
Right.
Like,
Well,
you know,
I almost feel like as games and the technology behind games gets better, it allows developers to be lazier about how they use the game to tell the story. Because like nowadays they can just make the story a movie and then make the game a game, and I think it's so easy to do that a lot of people do that, and that's what I think is blowing my mind
fairness,
about.
Like that's because that sounds like The Last of Us when you describe that. Like, not a dig against Last of Us. Like it sounds like I'm more interested in playing it because then you know, a video just came out on it.
Yeah,
I think
The Last of Us does some things that. Okay. I actually can go on a tangent about this really quickly, because I this is a thought that I've crystallized so much in my life, because I think about it all the time, that it's really easy to explain. But like, I think Last of Us does something that really changes how you feel about the game and draws you into the world, but it only does that based on how many like third-person shooters you've played. Where I think if Last of Us is maybe your only one, you wouldn't care as much. But like in most shooters, the individual bullet of ammo does not matter, right?
Yes.
You just kind of fire and you yeet the gun and you throw the bullet away and you're just living your life. But in Last of Us, like every individual bullet you have to scrounge for, so because of that, every bullet matters. And so it does, I think, draw you into the world and gameplay. Now, it's not on a Kojima level or, you know, on a level of a game that really tries to take every aspect of its gameplay to enhance the story. But I do think it uses it just enough to enhance the story and enhance the feeling you get, because of like that. And I mean, so I know you watched the Last of Us video that I don't want to mention
I only watched
too much,
like 3 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes,
but
so I did not watch.
Okay, so in that video he talks as well about how at a point around halfway in Last of Us 2 you switch characters, and I actually think he does a really good job at explaining, and even in ways that I hadn't fully thought of, ties in the way the gameplay changes in 2 at halfway and feels more like Last of Us 1's, to how you should view the character that plays, because the gameplay changes halfway through and it does feel more like Joel's gameplay. And so he ties into like how that should tie that character arc to Joel's character arc in certain ways and like there's similarities between, and so there are narrative and like narrative and gameplay do intertwine in that way. I think
now I see what you
really
mean by like gameplay versus movie. Okay.
Right. Where like I don't think
literally in the same of like cutscene.
Oh no. I mean no, because Metal Gear will put you in cutscenes for fucking an hour. No. Metal Gear loves
yeah.
its long cutscenes. What I mean entirely is like whether or not the gameplay is being used to tell the story, or whether or not the gameplay is just being used as gameplay, right?
Well, now I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like Kojima puts a lot of thought into how can he tell certain aspects of the story through gameplay. What part of the story can be told through gameplay? How can he do that? You know, and I want to see that evolve as the gameplay he can do evolves.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like going to be a lot of interesting stuff with that as I play through the Metal Gear series and Death Stranding. Because like, so like one thing Death Stranding, just to explain what I mean by the adaptive triggers and why I'm really excited to play the game with that. So like in Death Stranding, right, you essentially load up Norman Reedus with big ass boxes and you cover distances of ground carrying a bunch of shit on your back.
Right,
While you're doing that, the
you're
triggers
seeing things that other people built.
Well,
right?
yeah, but I was just going to talk about like one specific gameplay thing. So like while you're doing that, you have to like hold the straps of what's on you by the triggers. So you like hold the triggers to hold them up to your chest. So like when you're going up like a tight thing, you're walking up that holding the triggers down so that your character is like holding the straps as tightly as he can to his chest so they don't fall. I imagine if he doesn't do it in Death Stranding 1, like the PS5 like director's cut or whatever, because you know the game wasn't designed around it, I'm sure it'll be similar to how like Spider-Man like Miles versus 2 took way more, even if it wasn't as much, advantage of like the triggers. I imagine that if Death Stranding 1 doesn't, 2 will, where if it's heavier or whatever, you actually feel it in the triggers more, you know? And like I do think those triggers like the most immersive part of the PS5 controller, and like playing games on
so the triggers will have more resistance?
Not only more resistance. Okay. They can either have more resistance, they can have a rumble, they also can get a click out of nowhere. Like, so if you grab a controller that's off, it's like a PS5 controller or a PS4 controller where you can just press it all the way down on nothing. Certain games, like especially like shooters, the right trigger will get a click in it where the trigger is. So all of a sudden, as you start pressing it down, you will literally feel it click at a certain point where it just like adds like a button almost on the trigger. And you can feel a click and you can feel it like push in from there. So like when I was playing like Resident Evil 5, I would hold the trigger at the gun's like trigger. Like when you're aiming, you can like hold it at the trigger and like feel like the trigger of the gun in the controller's trigger. And then if you need to, you know, whatever, you just click it from there, right? But it's hard to explain unless you like play it. But thankfully, I think
I get it.
The like little like tech demo that comes with the PS5 does the best job of anything I've seen at using those triggers in really cool ways. There's like moments where you're like walking in the rain and it's like you like feel the raindrops on the trigger. It's bonkers. It's bonkers. But there's a lot of really cool stuff those triggers can do. And if there's one man that I genuinely expect to make full use of them, it is Kojima, because I think he's someone who would get the specs for the PS5 and like play Astro's Playroom and be like, oh, I can do better than this.
Yeah. Okay. No, that you sold me on a PS5. Like, I'm obviously I'm gonna wait until like because it kind of depends on like because obviously like I think I told you about how like they weren't the only games I got obviously, but I decided to purchase the PS4 and the Switch because of Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy a PC that I hope will be strong enough to play Monster Hunter World 2. But so it depends on like my internet and crossplay as to whether I'll get a PS5 or not. But I'm just considering like, okay, what is the game that because right now I'm interested in like The Last of Us, but I'm like, what is the game I'm gonna get a PS5 for?
Yeah,
is now the question.
I mean,
so
yeah. I couldn't tell you, especially if you get a computer good enough. I think there's some interesting games. I think especially if you read into Norse mythology, I genuinely recommend. And I mean, I would even recommend just playing 2018 because you can get it for so cheap. I recommend the new God of War games. I don't think they're like the best games I've ever played. I do think
I'll still probably go back because I did like God of War 1 and 2 in the PSP one, so I don't think they're very long games, so I'd probably go back to the beginning, and that way I'll get like a better at least feeling on Kratos' arc. I think like seeing
especially
him be this fucking monster
in
the trilogy, and then
especially when the games are genuinely about him changing. I think getting that full would be cool. But yeah,
I haven't played those games in probably 15 years, but
I think they're really cool. I think the Norse games are they do really interesting things. I I think they both do some really ballsy things in different ways. Yeah, I mean, it's a point in the Joseph Anderson video, but there's something God of War 2018 does that, like, he brings up, and I agree. I'm, like, shocked that the game did it. It's so ballsy for the game to do what it did. And then outside of that, I think just, like, what I explained to you about Ragnarok, I think the fact that the game treated it as subdued as it did and chose to be as subtle as it did with the prophecy stuff, I think is like a genuine
respect its audience, even though they don't deserve it apparently.
Yeah, like it's a gutsy choice. I think those games do respect their audience, and there is a bunch of small stuff they do that, like, they were gutsy. They knew they could get away with it, and they were like, how are we going to tell this story and do what we want? And I don't get the opinion. Other people have acted like Ragnarok was. I don't get the opinion that the game was focus grouped, and I don't get the opinion that they had to come up with stuff. In fact, I've seen shit since the game came out that, like, ties in with, like, 2018 stuff that comes off as even more looking likely that, like, everything was, like, a planned idea from the beginning. But I think those games are really good, and, like, as much as people want to hate on, like, the first party Sony titles, and there might be some similarities that a lot of them have, I think that, like...
Well, I remember the early criticism with 2018 was that it's like The Last of Us. It's another fucking dad game.
It's a dad game. It's close over the shoulder. You're in the woods for a lot of it.
But even then, I remember, I think it was Endless Jess his take was like, it's better, like, I mean, it was more negative where it's like, it's better than those games because it's Kratos and because you have this narrative of him, like, because he is the character, like, because it doesn't make sense that this murderous guy becomes a dad. Well, it's like, but that's the fucking point. Right, like that's interesting.
The other thing people forget is that literally part of why Kratos is that murderous guy is because he was a dad and lost his family.
Yeah, exactly right. Which
one of the things you can say about Kratos in the original games is that clearly he loved his family. So when he has another family,
a lot.
Yeah, it's
so
not a surprise.
The world,
he would love them.
Right?
Yeah, so it's like that is silly to me, but like I think that while there are similarities between a bunch of those Sony first-party titles, and I haven't played Horizon, I haven't played enough of Days Gone, that while I think Days Gone does do one thing that I say about the game is really cool and really interesting, I haven't played enough of it to really say if I think the game as a whole. But I think for the most part, especially Last of Us and God of War, I think those are games that, like, the people telling them have stories they want to tell, and I think I can look at choices that both Last of Us 2 especially, and either of God of War 2018 or Ragnarok make, that I think are really ballsy, kind of like artistic choices that speak to the developers having a story in mind that they were trying to tell and not compromising that vision for mass market. And I think the fact that people didn't like Last of Us 2 at launch is, like, very telling of that man had his story and he wanted to tell it, and he did not let that shit get compromised. And I think it's, like, kind of, like, obviously you can tell when you play it, I think. But I don't know.
Well, I remember, I think it was one of the Critical Role episodes, Ashley. Maybe it was maybe it was an episode, like, because they have some interviews.
Oh yeah, because the Critical Role people, because Troy Baker and is Laura Bailey on it?
No, Laura and Ashley Johnson are core members. Troy was on one of the Legends of Vox Machina, I think, because he voiced one of the characters in that. But yeah, no, and Ashley Johnson's interview, I'm pretty sure one of the things she mentioned was how, like, I think, what was the name of the main guy again?
Joel.
For Last of Us, Joel. Yeah, or no, the main person making it.
Oh, Neil Druckmann.
Yeah, where he. Like, the way she put it was he wasn't as sure that the game was going to be successful, but everyone working on it, like, she included, kind of knew, like, oh no, we're onto something here with the first Last of Us, and, like, having this idea that, yeah, it's going to be a big deal. So, like, so you mentioned, like, him not, Druckmann not compromising on it, where it's like, like, it sounds like the staff he was working with also, like, really understands his vision and is dedicated to committing on that.
To be fair, I say uncompromised. I'm sure as part of the creative process there were compromises that were made.
There's always compromise. Yeah, that's true.
But what I mean is that, like,
has his core vision. And,
I don't get the vibe when I play Last of Us 2 that there was any part where he was telling a story and a focus group came in and were like, that doesn't work for us, you have to retool it. If anything, I get the vibe that the opposite happened, if that makes sense. Like I get the vibe playing that game, and I think you like it's obvious just from how many people had immediate like the amount because like it's so clear that like people in that game, like that game does not make you feel good. You don't feel good playing Last of Us 2, but its story is so but like that makes sense because like what is one of the first Last of Us like biggest inspirations is like fucking Cormac McCarthy novels. You know what I mean? Those are not books that try to make you feel good. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Last of Us 2 when it ended didn't make people feel good. And so I think because of that they were very
no, that this goes back to where like we were talking about it with manga because I feel like when people have this issue where like they have a like again because I mentioned the Chapter page where I read it the wrong way because my brain wants to go in the wrong direction because I didn't grow up reading text from top to bottom like I would if I lived in Japan, right? But it's like because when people have a negative reaction to something or run into an issue like that, they don't want to blame themselves or look inward or think maybe maybe I'm doing something wrong. They want to blame the media, right?
Yeah, well,
which
and so
is so wrong-headed. Right?
To be fair, I think Last of Us is a game that wants you to kind of feel shitty for a while because like it just like it comes off when I play that game as like there was something that he wanted to do, and at the end of the day, he did it, and it is not what would have been the most popular option for the game to have taken. But I think because of that, it's obvious that it ultimately came out largely as the story that was wanted to be told. And I think that, like, that's, like, I don't know, it's just weird to me that people will play that game and be like, oh, fucking Sony. When it's like, dude, like, there are so many choices made in that game that, like, were clearly not what Sony would have wanted. Like,
well, and especially because I'm thinking about how like the fact that people because like I was the thing that came to mind was Uncut Gems, a movie that is not trying to make you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Like it makes you feel like shit, and it makes you feel tense and anxiety, and it's bad, and then it ends and you feel relief, but it's like the worst kind of relief because it's death, right? But like people like that movie, they respect it a lot, and they're like, holy shit, Adam Sandler was in a good movie. I'm shocked, right? Because people watching film have maturity to them. They understand the potentials of the medium because it's an old medium where games and a lot of gamers are fucking children.
I don't think that's actually part of it. I actually think my biggest argument is going to be that finishing Last of Us 2 takes like 24 hours.
Oh, length. Okay.
Yeah, and so I think that it's that like when people commit 20 I mean, so if you consider especially that like a lot of what Ellie does, I think is what makes people feel bad. That's a character that you spend, you know, you want to say 8 hours with, and then it's not actually 24 hours, but let's just pretend that all the time you spend in both games is time spent with, you know, one character, which it isn't, but whatever, right? Let's say you spend 30 hours with Ellie. People are going to want a better ending, I think, more because of the time investment put in, as opposed to like a movie where even if it's a 3-hour movie,
that's true. Yeah.
If you feel kind of shitty, it's fine. I think it's similar with like sitcoms, right? People don't like people didn't like the ending of Seinfeld, right? Because it didn't give them something satisfying with characters they had spent 9 years with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think time investment.
I've never heard about the ending of Seinfeld.
Do you want me to tell you what happens? Because it's funny.
I do not care. So go ahead.
They get arrested for all the crimes they committed throughout the series, and I think they like end it in jail. Which, like, when I think about it now, is fucking hysterical. Like, the thought of ending a sitcom being like, yeah, you know how, like, these are sitcom characters and face no repercussions for their actions? These are the repercussions if you live like a sitcom character. Like, that's fucking funny. But also, I totally get...
just thinking about how, like, Always Sunny work is kind of this response to Seinfeld where it's like, but what if they were worse, right? And it's like, so think about how, no, Seinfeld was aware of it enough to the point where it's like, yeah, these fuckers should be in jail. Let's end it with them going to jail. That's amazing. That's actually makes me more interested in Seinfeld. Like, I'm probably not going to watch it for a long time, but that's very funny.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. And so, like, I think that, you know, obviously the average media, if the average media literacy hasn't changed, and like whatever, you know, especially considering the time commitment, I could totally see how like The ending of Seinfeld is totally just as funny as you and me are picturing in our heads, because we have media literacy. And you tell me
Yes.
the ending of this sitcom ends with all the characters going to jail, and I'm like, wait, that's fucking genius. But I
Right?
can
Well,
totally
it's
see
so,
how
yeah.
most people at the time would be like, nah, not for me. Like, brother.
Yeah.
But all right.
Yeah. We gotta call it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
It
gonna
was
call
great
it.
talking with you as always.
It was a good time. I missed
We
the
just kept
Monster Hunter
fucking going. That
streams.
that was a hot minute of Monster Hunter and chatting about video games.
Maybe
mostly.
when World 2
I feel
comes
like
out.
we haven't had a. I also just realized we haven't had a just chat Weeb Club in a while because we've had like guests or breaks and stuff. I feel like so we haven't had us just talking with each other. I feel like.
No, that's true.
So yeah, but
I was gonna say when World 2 comes out, we should try to convince Nun to pick it up on his PS5. So then you, me, and Nun can do World 2 streams.
That's just the Weeb Club for 5 years. It's just we're just playing
just all we're
Monster
doing.
Hunter World
Well,
2.
Yeah, I guess I can say it here because I was thinking about it, bringing it up anyways. I've been thinking about if I don't play a game during the Weeb Club, maybe I should record some gameplays like B-roll during the Weeb Club, just so there's something visually people have to watch on screen as opposed to just seeing like a picture.
I can see that.
You know what I mean? I know there's a podcast I listened to way back in the day that like would just do that. Like it wasn't current gameplay, but like they would just have gameplay recorded. Like it didn't matter what game, you know what I mean, and just play it. And I feel like that would actually be the wave because it would allow the Weeb Club to be more like kind of chill overall, and we're just like hanging out, and people can like have something on to like visually look at without having to, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been thinking about, but I think that's a conversation for another time. But I thought I wanted to say it, but
For sure. But anyway, we'll talk next week. See you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't know what we're doing next week. We'll figure that out by then. All right.
Adios.